A desperate man, fleeing an unseen terror, finds himself trapped in a dead-end alley. His breath catches, his legs begin to fail. His frantic eyes search for any sliver of an escape route. But fate is cruel. A cold blade is already pressed against his throat. His pleas for mercy are silent. The Crimson Night gives way to the following morning. And here we meet our protagonist, the enigmatic Araji Kai, a 17-year-old who harbors a deep-seated annoyance with the world, forced to endure school daily, despite his hidden life as an assassin. Back in the classroom, he enters with his usual casual demeanor. He's greeted with a cheerful good morning from the school president, Midu. Araji Kai offers not a single glance in return. This aloof attitude grates on the class's reigning fashion queen, Rina. The two exchange a few gossiping words about him before Arashur makes his entrance, the feared leader of the school's delinquent gang. He approaches Araji Kai directly, expecting some form of acknowledgement. Instead, he's met with cold indifference, which infuriates him. He impulsively lunges forward, attempting to grab the boy's arm, but his advance is effortlessly blocked. Enraged, Araji Kai nearly unleashes his deadly assassin's instincts upon him, but he relents, letting him off with a bone-chilling glare. Kansaki attempts to intervene in the escalating tension. As Arashur turns his glare toward her, he immediately faces the wrath of the strict committee girl, Hashimoto. Even the laziest among them decides to chime into the conversation. This sleepy-eyed boy is introduced to us as Narumi Yoshia. Such was the first year of these Class 2 students. Just another normal, mundane day in their high school lives. However, Araji Kai's sharp eyes detect something abnormal at Mito's feet. A dark blue light emanates from an inscribed magic circle on the floor, and before a single person could react or process the strange phenomenon, that ominous magic circle erupted to engulf the entire classroom. The next moment, as their consciousness returned, they found themselves sprawled on the floor of an unknown, grand chamber. Before his classmates could even stir from their daze, Araji Kai was already scanning his surroundings, gathering critical intel. The others awakened moments later, their minds swirling with a storm of unanswered questions, each one voicing their confusion. The class representative quickly stepped up to pacify the rising panic. He acted like the true leader they expected him to be, but the delinquent leader, Arashur, paid him no mind and tried to march off with his lackeys. His escape was cut short by the sound of approaching figures from the only exit. Two individuals, one a man and the other a woman. As the massive gate swung open, they saw a woman dressed in elegant, regal attire, flanked by a battle-hardened old man who radiated experience. She proclaimed them to be the prophesied hero candidates. Her words stunned every single student, leaving a question on their minds. Is this some kind of elaborate cosplay? Araji Kai covertly hid himself behind a large pillar. He immediately understood this was a deadly serious situation. The woman before them carried an aura of genuine authority. She introduced herself to the bewildered students as Leonora, the esteemed archbishop of this sacred nation. At her side was Gaius, the captain of her knights. Arashur arrogantly stepped forward to confront them, and as expected, he spewed harsh, disrespectful words for their first meeting. Mito quickly intervened with a sincere apology. He then politely inquired about their unbelievable predicament. His classmates were all still reeling in confusion. In simple, grave terms, Leonora finally revealed the truth. Every single one of them had been summoned from a parallel world. They were this world's last hope to defeat the Demon King, bestowed with the legendary title of Hero Candidate. Still, these fantastical words were too much for the normal students, and with Arashur being one of the most rebellious, he ended up in a heated argument with the old knight. Gaius decided it was time to teach the arrogant boy a lesson. He immediately drew his sword, adopting a battle-ready stance. Even though the archbishop cried out for him to stop, the foolish Arashur charged forward, aiming to punch him. He believed he could dodge the initial strike and surprise the old man. However, his plan went disastrously wrong. Before he could even process what had just happened, he felt the cold steel of a sword slicing his forehead. The sight of it absolutely stunned his classmates. The archbishop clearly disapproved of such reckless action from her knight, and after a quick apology, she commanded everyone to quiet down. It was time for them to understand their true purpose here. Because of the Demon King's relentless invasion, humanity in this world was teetering on the very brink of extinction. And since their nation was a holy one, the immense responsibility of protecting it fell upon them. However, their own forces were critically low on manpower. In short, for them to complete this monumental task, they were left with but a single desperate hope: the hero candidates that were summoned from another world. These high schoolers still couldn't believe the burden placed upon them. As some of them broke down, their tears starting to fall, the knight Gaius showed not an ounce of kindness. He coldly informed them that the only path back to their own world was to first defeat the dreaded Demon King. Araji Kai instantly realized these words were meant to force their cooperation. However, one crucial fact remained certain: a group of random kids couldn't just start killing people. They would undoubtedly need experience and, most importantly, raw innate talent. Erasure, being his usual self, mocked them for thinking they held any authority. After all, they had dragged the students here against their will. Gaius was almost impressed by the boy's defiant fighting spirit, but seeing him still causing trouble, he was about to draw his sword once more, but was stopped. The Archbishop stepped forward to heal the delinquent's wounds. Once again, she offered an apology with a warm, healing light to finally answer the questions burning in everyone's minds. She explained this was a system granted to them by the gods, and she declared this incredible power to be called magic. To demonstrate, she then walked over to the class representative. She lightly tapped his head with a glowing light from her palm. That touch gave him a sudden, electrifying feeling, and soon, a brilliant light began to emanate from his hand, which eventually solidified into the form of a shining sword. Harnessing the power of this system, the hero candidates were about to inherit the ability of divine protection. Casting aside all of her pride, the Archbishop pleaded for these kids to lend their power to save humanity. She also promised she would provide them with proper training, while they remained under her care and custody, and would then release them once their task was complete. Mito yelled, rallying the other students to the dire situation, and in short, asked them all to unite for the noble cause of saving humanity. The others reluctantly seemed to agree. So, the Archbishop began bestowing upon them their divine protection. Hashimoto was granted the incredible power of telekinesis. Erasure was given the destructive divine protection of explosion, and the remaining students were also given their share of power. Araji Kai was the very last student to step forward. He was soon granted a power that completely altered his field of vision. Suddenly, he saw a status screen hovering over the Archbishop, revealing every single one of her hidden abilities. In short, his divine protection was called Judgment, a legendary, rare ability allowing him to see the powers of any enemy. It took a moment for Araji Kai to fully grasp this, and just as he was examining his newfound power, an attacker lunged at him from behind. It was revealed to be none other than Erasure. Even though he dodged the attack effortlessly, he had to endure the scornful laughter of his other classmates, mocking him for getting just eyes and no supreme offensive power. Araji Kai remained completely silent and expressionless. He observed his classmates' petty reactions. He understood that divine protection could be a fickle thing, but his honed skills as an assassin would always be superior for killing foes. Wishing the students well on their journey, the Archbishop finally took her leave from them. Later on that same evening, the hero candidates were escorted to their own private rooms, and while everyone else chose to rest from the day's events, Araji Kai seized the opportunity to gather more intelligence. First, he overheard a conversation between two guards, discussing the summoning of the new heroes, calling them mere kids who couldn't even protect themselves. They were simply making a mockery of the situation, while Araji Kai was meticulously tracking the number of reinforced guards. His judgment revealed their status screens to be that of a normal human, possessing only the most basic of settlement skills. Regarding the geography of this grand castle, it was structured like a massive, fortified city, and the inner sanctum of the castle was extremely heavily guarded. Later that night, during his reconnaissance, he found the girls from his class gathered in a secluded corner, with the clear intention of testing out their new skills. For practice, Rina unleashed her powerful flame skill, while the others were busy practicing their telekinesis and water magic. Araji Kai decided to observe their progress for a while, but he soon felt a strange and menacing sensation, and as he turned, he saw a huge monster lurking towards the girls, causing them to freeze in terror at its grotesque identity. Instantly, he used his judgment, finding it possessed surprisingly decent aerial skills. The attack came just as he expected. It let out a deafening howl with its first assault, sending all three girls scrambling away for their very lives. Following its aggressive and predatory nature, however, it displayed very little intelligence to Arajikai's analytical eye. With practiced ease, Arajikai withdrew a small knife and launched it directly at the monster, inflicting a shallow but precise cut. The monster roared in agony and its speed immediately slowed. However, the panicked girls, being inexperienced, created another deadly opening for it by slipping on a rock, leaving one of them face to face with the beast. Not long after, the monster was looming directly on top of the helpless girl, and before she could even so much as blink her eyes, its massive paws were poised and ready to strike her down. Just then, something completely unexpected occurred. The next moment, when Rina dared to open her eyes, she saw that the monstrous beast was now dead, felled by a lethal strike to the head from a sharp knife. They decided not to linger and give it any more attention, and retreated immediately back to the safety of their dorm. As we know, it was none other than Arajikai who saved them from that dire situation. Being the professional assassin he was, he realized that things here were not going to be simple, and just then, he felt another faint sensation of someone's presence. Even though he spun around to try and find its source, he ultimately made the decision to depart from the area. It was a mysterious, robed man, inspecting the head of the dead monster, looking down on it with pity for being so pathetically weak. The following morning, everyone looked completely terrified when they were shown the corpse of that very same monster, which had been discovered near the royal capital's walls. Steady, one of the men, was conducting an inquiry regarding the monster, and he revealed that it was a mid-grade beast, a reason for the urgent arrival of the supposed hero candidates. In short, that monster was being remotely controlled by someone quite strong. Demons have their own selective control spells. Steady began spewing a torrent of knowledge from his head before everyone, so much so that Gaius himself had to drag the yellow-haired man away. Arajikai shifted his focus back to the main subject. He wondered if his intuition about a different demonic presence. The previous night was indeed real. Even at that very moment, such a demon was keeping a close watch on them all. And suddenly, his classmates started shouting defiantly, proclaiming that they were not afraid of anything, since their only path back home was through defeating the mighty Demon King. All of them resolved to finally play their part in this war. A grim realization dawned upon every single one of them, and after noticing some of them were still afraid, the Archbishop herself stepped forward to reassure them, stating that their training would grant them a decisive edge over others. As the chosen hero candidates since that day, a full week had now passed, and by this time, the candidates were deep into their rigorous training. While Arajikai was the only one spending all his time inside the library, thanks to his unique skills, Arajikai was merely keeping a close eye on how the others were training, and he soon finished reading the entire history of the demons. While observing the incredible growth rate of these students, he noticed that every single one of them was improving at a steady pace, with 5 particular students becoming the center of everyone's attention: Narumi, Erasure, Kansaki, Hashimoto, and Nagase. Yet, among all of them, there was one individual displaying the most extraordinary growth of all, one who even made a veteran soldier drop his sword in sheer awe. And it was none other than the class representative, Mito. His status screen was telling a completely different story, compared to everyone else in the class, which had grown exceptionally from D or F ranks to A or B. As expected, when the others walked past Arajikai, they started taunting him for his inability to use any battle skills. Arajikai realized that as soon as the others started growing stronger, all of them were becoming arrogant after acquiring their new power. One of the boys decided to mock Arajikai with his brute strength, but he met a different destiny when he was flipped onto his head, landing upside down in front of everyone, utterly humiliated. Just then, the Archbishop arrived with her loyal knight, and as soon as she made her entrance, she praised them all for their exceptional rate of growth, before informing them about a sudden change of plans, where she now wanted them to practice by fighting live monsters. The announcement was quite sudden, to be sure. Soon, everyone was transported to a dense forest area, and all of them were standing in the middle of it, a place that was filled with treacherous obstacles. According to the plan, she wanted to split all of them into teams of 2 or 3 people. The first elite group was formed of Mito, Rina, and the formidable Hashimoto. The second team consisted of the delinquent leader Erasure and his followers. The third group almost looked like they were setting couple goals, and in the end, The only remaining individuals were Araji Kai and Kansaki. Left with no other options, they decided to group up together. And so, Araji Kai begrudgingly agreed to the pairing. Her true character was surprisingly confident, with an almost pathetic personality. But Araji Kai didn't seem to mind it at all, and that's how they ended up taking a picture of themselves. The Archbishop soon announced the official beginning of their training, while also hinting at a mysterious surprise reward that awaited them all once the mission started. The first scene then moved to focus on the last team, where Kansaki was arrogantly telling Araji Kai to just stay within her shadow and not get in the way, and he immediately agreed to her terms without any argument, giving the proud lady the impression that he had absolutely no pride. On the other hand, Araji Kai had already detected the presence of monsters surrounding them. She identified the approaching horde as a pack of goblins. One of them lunged forward, directly in front of the lady, and she immediately used her divine spirit to completely dominate, forcing it back down to the ground with her will. An incredible ability that can force the user's orders to prevail over the target. Through a series of powerful commands, she finally managed to get a firm hold over its mind. However, she was looking extremely tired due to the continuous mental effort. Araji Kai mercilessly told her to kill it, but she was showing hesitation, not keeping in mind that these were enemies who would have proceeded with the singular intention of killing her first. Following his orders, she steel-heartedly went for the task. Meanwhile, Araji Kai picked up a stone to face the other three goblins, standing menacingly in front of him. Before he could even attack, Kansaki once again used her power of domination and asked Araji Kai to lend her a hand as her support. Following Araji Kai's ruthless beliefs, she immediately commanded those monsters to twist their own necks, and her command was followed without question. Even though her order was obeyed perfectly, it would significantly lower the chances of the monster being too strong. In any case, it was her very first time seeing the corpses she had killed herself, so she was understandably quite stunned by the sight. However, on the other hand, Araji Kai remained as calm and still as water. When she questioned him, he completely ignored her and began to inspect the bodies of the goblins, finding absolutely nothing of any value on them. Even though the lady was still quiet and shaken, she resolved to head deeper into the treacherous forest, further displaying a good character with a newfound belief to fight. As the scene then shifts over to another team, Narumi, along with the rest of his members, was seen desperately running from something that was far from suitable for the kind of monster they had to face. In the end, when they were completely tired of running, they decided to unleash a combined attack of wind, blast, and a block bullet, aiming it all towards the beast. Even though their combined attack was impressive, it didn't even leave a single scratch on the body of the creature. This fact absolutely terrified the other two members. It was a colossal monster, crimson in color, a truly furious beast. Back with our pair, entering the depths of the forest, Kansaki found herself thinking about her past life, where she had to repay in full to her grandfather for whatever he had done for her. Araji Kai realized that, even though they were currently moving in a straight line, they could easily get lost in this maze. And his true, cocky character was finally revealed to Kansaki. Just then, they heard a piercing scream. Without wasting a single precious moment, she decided to rush forward to help her classmate. The screen revealed a battered and bloodied Hashimoto, who looked completely thrashed, with blood on her head. Even though Narumi was trying his absolute best to help the girl, it was far too late, as the monster had already raised its mighty paw to deliver a devastating killing blow against them both. Suddenly, the monster found itself unable to move its arm, due to the domination spell that was now cast by Kansaki. However, the effect was vastly different from what she had done to the goblins, and after quickly assessing the situation, Araji Kai immediately ordered Narumi to take care of Hashimoto. Narumi hesitated for a moment, but upon the insistence from Araji Kai, he left to bring back more support from the background. Then, Araji Kai finally activated his judgment, using his skill to identify the true characteristics of that monstrous beast, and it was revealed to be a bear with a high-level defense spell, and it was also being remotely controlled. Its fur and thick scales were leaned heavily towards its baseless defense. Also, Kansaki was rapidly losing her control on her domination spell, and then they immediately decided to run away from the beast, as fast as their legs could possibly carry them. Unexpectedly, Kanzaki fell right to the ground, and was now unable to move her legs. The monster immediately tried to capitalize and attack her. However, Araji-kai quickly took out a concealed smoke bomb. Taking the chance, he scooped the lady up into his arms and decided to hide. It was an embarrassing situation, and about the smoke bomb, he lied about preparing it when he was supposed to be in training. In reality, Araji-kai had all the basic necessities of a professional assassin before he was even summoned, which even included a gun. At first, the lady apologized profusely for pushing him into danger, but ended up thanking him sincerely for saving her own life. Araji-kai just casually mocked her for such emotional behavior, making her scream in a fit of pure embarrassment. Soon, reinforcements finally arrived from behind them, bringing the strongest team from among their classmates. Led by the mighty Mito, he immediately activated his gleaming sword, and it was now time for the epic battle of the day between him and the terrifying and fearsome monster bear. Mito took the first bold step and moved forward with his sword, delivering a powerful attack, while managing to pierce the tough defense of the thick scales of the bear. Nagase then used her powerful fire magic to completely burn it down, and somehow succeeded in delivering a pinpoint attack directly to it. Even though their teamwork looked good, it had no severe, lasting impact on the powerful bear. As soon as it managed to release itself from that fire, it was approaching again, after having taken a toll on its body, and it was now moving considerably slower than before. All three of them combined their powerful forces and decided to kill it at once. Once again, this entire epic battle was being overlooked by someone, and it was revealed to be the veteran assassin demon, Delphis. He was incredibly impressed with the quick growth of the hero candidates, and he was most attracted to the exponential growth of Mito. This development made him change his decision from a scouting mission to an assassination one. On the other hand, Mito was on the verge of closing his epic battle, and with 3 to 4 continuous powerful strikes of his sword, he completely shattered all the scales of the bear's tough hide. And to finally end it on a positive note, he killed the monster by piercing his gleaming sword deep inside its stomach. Delphis then finally decided to head out for a decisive move, but he was struck suddenly as another knife was raised to his throat, making him stop dead in his tracks immediately. It was none other than Araji-kai, using his judgment to have the same knowledge that one should never blindly believe that he has defeated the enemy. Delphis wisely decided to raise his hands while dropping his weapon. The moment he had, numerous questions raced through his mind, including a desperate way to escape from Araji-kai. Somehow he must have felt it, and he sliced him in the knee area, to make him fall hard on the ground with a loud, pained scream. The assassin was thinking of asking him some questions, but he knew that this monster was not ready to answer a single one. Delphis, too, was feeling a strange presence right from the very beginning, from when he launched the first attack in the garden at midnight. On the other hand, Araji-kai was already 2 steps ahead of him, with detailed plans to lure Delphis out from his cage. He gave him, once again, the chance, the man on the floor, to speak, and was met with a defiant denial. Once again, it was already getting late to make a move, and to make things much simpler, he sliced clean through both of his elbows, making him feel even more excruciating pain. In the end, when Delphis was left with no other viable option, he decided to use the suicide method by biting down on a poison capsule, and he spat it out with his dying words of defiance. As Araji-kai was about to use his judgment to see his skill growth, he was called out by Kanzaki, who was trembling in fear, inquiring about the mysterious death of the man. She further revealed that her presence had been there from the time that the strange man was on the floor, and as Araji-kai realized this, he revealed that the man was an assassin from the Demon King's own army, who was the one remotely controlling the bear, as well as the other monster they had faced. Initially back in the royal garden at night, it was now obvious that they were sending monsters to try and kill off the hero candidates. And since there was no longer any reason to keep his things hidden, he even revealed that his own family was in the assassination business. Kansaki was absolutely stunned to hear something like that, and so, Araji-kai even gave him a reconfirmation of his words. He just wanted that the lady shall not reveal such sensitive information to anyone, as the rest of the class would not be able to take something like that at once. She liked the mysterious character of the boy, and he was only interested in the unique skills that she possessed, skills that would be extremely useful in the near future. On the other hand, everyone else was deeply troubled about Hashimoto's current grave condition, and it was Shirori, using her powerful healing skills to make the condition of that kid much better. It was going well, but it would take at least an hour to fully heal. They were quickly impressed with the quick thinking of the class representative and his subordinate by the way they had managed the whole matter, while Kanzaki knew full well who the true mastermind was behind their recent success. Just then, there arrived the Archbishop, with her guard, making everyone pissed at their late arrival for the rescue. Gaius just revealed casually that it was all their plan not to help, as it would not be a good practice session if he came to their aid every single time. Even putting all of their lives in grave danger was not a question to stand on, because they would have to face such kinds of deadly battles by themselves. Mito was deeply concerned about the false information of weak monsters, and the only answer the Archbishop was even aware of was that there must be a demon assassin orchestrating all of it. They decided to greatly strengthen their defenses in order to be able to cope with such powerful beings, and the Archbishop decided to go even harder on the hero candidates, as such low levels of training were not going to give anything good out of them in the long run. The others looked really depressed and deeply frightened by the new situation. The Edges had witnessed and saw that the class representative stood up against it in front of Leonora. His passionate objection was turned down by the lady immediately, further pissing off the hot-headed delinquent leader, Erasure, as he was not ready to face orders from them anyhow. Gaius's entire character suddenly changed, and he screamed out to tell everyone that these were all the points they desperately needed to finally defeat the dreaded Demon King, and they had to follow any orders whenever they were given. Once again, a fiery spark was lighted between him and Erasure, but it was quickly stopped by the class representative, as he was well aware that disobeying their orders would make them all enemies of the entire nation, with absolutely no chance of ever winning. Gaius praised the boy for his wise interpretation, relieved that he did not have to kill them due to their importance. After having been summoned here, Hirashi once again completely lost his control and decided to deliver a surprise attack right in front of the old man, a surprise one in the form of a massive destructive blast. He had to believe that he had finally won against him. However, as to be expected, the old man used his vast experience and returned a powerful punch, landing it right on his left cheek, making him travel great distances while kissing the floor continuously. After having taught him a valuable lesson, he just moved away while giving them all strict instructions to prepare themselves for the next deadly problem they were going to face. Erasure, on the other hand, was happy in his own mind with a newfound determination to kill that old guy. On the day after the harsh military drills, all of them were moved to the main training area, which was being governed by the monster researcher, Steady. Those who had gotten hurt yesterday were doing much better after the healing magic, and the one who was completely thrashed was also in good condition now. Steady praised the lady with the amazing healing power, and then introduced them all to the new research facility, where they were all going to fight live monsters. Before explaining further, he decided to show them the inside of it, which was completely filled with caged goblins, lizards, devils, and even massive ogres. The classmates were completely terrified by the sight, and the Archbishop praised Steady, pleasingly, for creating such a place with lots of information and data on such monsters. When the combat drills finally began, the very first battle was between Nagase and a huge ogre. Araji Kai was once again impressed with the newfound calmness among his classmates from the past training. And in the drill, it was Nagase who was getting thrashed by the powerful monster, continuously being thrown down on the floor. Mito immediately asked his teacher to stop the fight, but he was faced with an instant denial due to the strict orders from the Archbishop. He further said that Nagase was actually going to win, and it really happened as she used her skill in a completely different manner. This time with just one powerful concentrated attack. She burned that ogre to a crisp instantly. Actually, if someone increases the level of their divine protection, it will eventually give birth to new derivatives of the very same ability. Araji Kai came up from behind to tell Mito, while he was using his judgment, that he had a new divine protection skill at level 1, which had been added to his own status screen. Mito decided to give it a try and immediately went for the next drill. Facing the ogre, he used his powerful sword of Evil Crush, along with his newly developed monster-slaying skill, which scared that monster right down to its very toes. No mercy could possibly be shown, and so He rushed forward against that monster and sliced off one of its arms, using just one single devastating attack. In the end, he won the battle with a decisive slice to its head, leaving even Araji-kai impressed and questioning in his own mind if his own personal skills had improved in some regard or not. Further, as he looked around the room, he found that even Erasure had developed a brand new skill, but it was not like he was ever going to tell him about it anyhow. The quick info was a good sign that they could even send out their derivatives from their divine protection. Later that night, Erasure was seen gathering some of his loyal subordinates and other rebellious classmates in order to discuss a secret plan, where he was first going to try and kill Gaius, and then force the archbishop to send them all back to their own world. The others agreed at once, and even Narumi, after a reconfirmation of their chances of winning, and with the past pictures of Hashimoto being hurt in his mind, finally decided to be a part of their rebellion. Mito was still training hard, along with the other diligent classmates, and he was the one who was standing out the most from the training session. Even Araji-kai couldn't help but praise him. However, for Mito, it was still not nearly enough, because his sole intention was to be overwhelmed with pure strength in order to be able to defeat the dreaded demon lord. But when Araji-kai asked him about his own views on the archbishop, he clearly depicted that he was well aware of the filthy intentions of those guys, but in order to save all of his beloved classmates, he was ready to obey their every order and command. Or in short, he had already made up his mind to defeat the Demon King. His plan was to complete the task and then negotiate on the exchange, and his every swing was for that singular reason alone. In the middle of the intense session, the archbishop once again arrived, along with her ever-present knight, to tell Steady that she was going to be away for a few days, and that he would be put in charge of the candidates, and departed, a chillingly serene smile playing on the boy's lips. On their journey, the knight voiced his unease about her departure, especially with a rebellion brewing in the shadows, led by Erasure. But the archbishop remained completely unfazed, fully aware of their defiant plans. In fact, she was eagerly anticipating what move they would dare to make. Throughout this entire exchange, a cold smile never left her face, for she possessed an unshakable belief that no one could ever defeat her. Her grand strategy was to let their defiance bloom before crushing it. And as dusk bled into the deepest night, our story shifts. We find Araji-kai deep in a deadly hunt against the monsters, felling them one after another with relentless efficiency, each one dispatched with a single, precise strike. His status screen illuminated a steady increase in his core attributes. The only reason he could even comprehend this rapid growth was from the battle against that demon assassin. Just then, a monstrous ogre attempted to slam him into the ground, but he managed to not only evade the devastating blow, but also tried to slice it using 3 knives in a single fluid attack. Unexpectedly, all of his blades failed to pierce its incredibly thick scales. This forced him to unleash his newly awakened skill attribute, a deadly new power he now possessed called weak point detection. Instantly, the back of the ogre's head was marked by a fatal sigil. He leaped into the air, delivering a knife strike that pierced right through. He emerged from the conflict as the clear victor, but he grimly realized that much more was required in order to survive here. His training regime grew even more intense, and now to hone his skills, he used his newfound powers in defeating even the lowly goblins. He was now searching for a much bigger, more powerful test subject to confirm his own reliability and mastery of this new skill. Just then, his senses detected a human presence approaching him. It was revealed to be a worried and anxious Kanzaki, who had been searching all over for him in this dangerous forest, which was not safe at night just as it was during the day. In order to dodge even more questions from the persistent Kanzaki, he finally revealed that he was testing a newly acquired skill, as it was something that could be further developed if they practiced diligently on their own. These divine skills. She tried to pry and know more about that skill, however, he flatly denied her. Instead, he asked a strange question about her being so worried about him. Kanzaki blushed even harder at his direct question. However, the aloof Araji-kai just turned away, completely ignoring it. The two of them were now heading back from the training grounds, and just then, she noticed thick smoke erupting from the distant dorms. A massive number of monsters were attacking in a chaotic stampede, and the students there had no idea what was suddenly happening. As expected, Mito heroically came to their immediate rescue, and he bravely decided to face all of the creatures by himself. Nagase decided to join the fray and enter the battle instantly. The other two were also rapidly approaching the dorms, and upon reconfirmation, the panicked students confirmed they were not aware of anything, as the attack had happened so suddenly and without warning. Araji-kai instantly understood that this was all the doing of a human, and that they needed to apprehend the culprit immediately. Finally, the culprit was revealed, and it was an unexpected one. It turned out to be none other than the monster researcher, Steady. All of the rampaging monsters were from his own laboratory, and Steady revealed that he had added some powerful immunizations to make all of these monsters even stronger and more deadly. Upon questioning, Steady revealed that he was acting on an order from above, an order to completely defeat the new hero candidates, and that was the very reason he was here, to kill them all. In actuality, that position came from none other than the Demon King himself, and this man was acting as a spy for the demon army, on the offer of working as a renowned monster researcher. If he succeeded, Araji-kai was even more pissed to hear his selfish reason. But for Steady, it was all just a game to reach his own twisted dreams, and he spoke these words whilst the fierce battle was still going on. And Steady was the one commanding all the monsters to kill. All of the hero candidates, Kanzaki, immediately decided to use her domination skill over all the monsters, but it was of no use as those monsters were freed from her spell, with a single powerful command from Steady, and all of them instantly leaped forward to attack her at once. Araji-kai himself came forward to guard her from the assault, and he took down all of the goblins in one fell swoop. Other monsters too jumped in to play their own deadly role, and Araji-kai defeated them all easily with just a small knife. Like it was some kind of gameplay, he was using his assassination skills. Even the monsters themselves were terrified by such a gruesome display. Steady was left with no other option in the end to deal with him, and Araji-kai, before heading forward into the battle, used his judgment and found that the man was a half-demon, with powerful abilities of domination and even sorcery. Everything was now crystal clear for him at that moment. The demons could use both domination and sorcery, and hence control monsters. Steady himself decided to give a sinister laugh of a demon to everyone, and for the final, devastating blow, he revealed his hidden trump card. It turned out to be a hideous and colossal dragon, of burning lava, flying high up in the night sky. The moment it let out a deafening roar, it was revealed to be the Red Dragon, and it was delivering a powerful, killing intent with every breath. With every single blow, Kansaki was terrified to her very toes, and so was Araji-kai. Once again, he played the role of a hero and swiftly saved her. He then commanded Narumi to take her far away from the battle. He instantly used his powerful skill of weak point identification, and found that its weak spot was located directly under its mouth. Upon finding this out, he immediately tried to slash it with a sword, but it was of no use as the sword instantly broke on impact, due to the incredible toughness of that specific area. All he needed at that very moment was a perfect man, one who held the sheer power to deliver that critical attack. That man became none other than Erasure, but he played his role once again, recklessly, and tried to attack the beast with a massive destructive blast, without fully reading the dire situation at hand. He was extremely happy with his attack, but it was of no use as the moment it brushed off that simple attack, the mighty Red Dragon immediately countered it with even more burning fire. Letting his guard down so foolishly made him reach that dire fate. Araji-kai, realizing his immense strength, decided to propose a team-up to take that monster down together. Arashi's state was correct, without a single second thought, and Araji-kai told him the reality of his situation, revealing that he possessed the weak point detection skills. It was not like the dragon was going to wait for them to complete their little chit-chat, and so it attacked them once again with a combined attack of flame breath, giving them absolutely no time to react or even counter. Erasure took that devastating blow head-on, and somehow, he realized that he had no chance of defeating it by himself. Swallowing down his immense pride, he inquired about the weak point and came to know about the scale, which was located upside down directly under its neck. Araji-kai was going to play the dangerous role of the bait to lure its attention. Steady, from behind them, was using his domination sorcery to close things in a much faster manner, and being controlled, the dragon immediately followed his command. Its powerful flame gust was now pinpointed to both of them, and the following attack was going to be a massive flame breath once again. Araji Kai somehow interrupted with a flurry of knife attacks, and he managed to successfully gain its full attention, relieving the vulnerable Erasure from any imminent danger. Seizing the golden chance, he immediately rushed in and delivered a powerful destructive blast, once again from directly under the dragon's neck. The mission seemed to be a complete success, as that mighty red dragon was finally down on the floor, and it was left with absolutely no movement at all. Steady was just standing there, and Erasure was now taking it easy. Araji Kai then moved forward to mock the defeated Steady even more, and it was then when that man realized that all of his monsters were showing no movement, and it was just the hero candidates standing victoriously, with Mito in the middle. Narumi suddenly came up from behind, making that man slip on his own legs. The very moment he was falling down onto the floor, one of the other candidates used his powerful water skills and made him paint his face directly onto the sharp knife of the assassin. Araji Kai wanted to ask him some important questions, and even though he finally agreed to answer them, he choked on his own breath, and with blood from his eyes, he died instantly. It was a powerful curse that acted the moment he tried to speak, something to prevent him from leading to any information, and this made somehow even the stoic Araji Kai to raise his eyebrows at the sheer level of threat they were going to face. The scenes turned to the next day at the Grand Mansion, where the Archbishop was stunned to know about the new information, while Narumi was asking for a sincere apology for making them fall into such a great death threat. The Archbishop just let out a little giggle, because she was certain that such a low-level demon was not going to hurt her precious hero candidates. Everyone was completely shocked to learn that those guys were aware of the event all along, and it turned out that it was all the Archbishop's plan to make their training and resolve even harder. When the others tried to show some measure of resolve, Gaius interrupted them and left them with no other option but to just shut their mouths and listen. She then revealed that all of them were going to visit the royal capital, where a massive parade was going to be held, revealing the hero candidates. Their new plan started instantly, and when the night finally arrived, they were already on their way, and were camping at a specific location. Erasure was the one planning his next rebellion program, a plan to take down the 30 soldiers, who were the lowest in number since the time they arrived in that country. Erasure truly believed that those guys were underestimating his classmates, and his new plan was going to be set in motion that very night. This entire rebellious conversation was overheard by Araji Kai. He knew that none of them were well trained enough, and the only reason those, like the Archbishop and the Knight, were not paying much attention to them was because they knew they could easily handle them all by themselves. He immediately went to find the wise class representative, and he told him everything that he had just overheard. At the stroke of midnight, when the rebellious group was on its way to take their chance, while everyone else was supposedly sleeping, another group arrived, this one led by the brave Mito. Stopping them instantly, he approached them while confirming their treasonous plan, and as soon as it was done, Kenzaki found it to be totally crazy for them to go that way. Erasure, on the other hand, was not ready to act like a dog in that country. Mito, too calm, immediately told him that his own plan was to act as their willing pawn in order to defeat the mighty Demon King, and with a further demand in exchange for everyone's safe return. Erasure was not ready for that, and decided to do it his own way, while the other side wisely decided to stop him, acting as a wall. Erasure instantly moved forward, launching a powerful knee attack. Even though Mito managed to block the attack, he was genuinely impressed by his raw strength. Suddenly, the soldiers interrupted them after hearing the loud ruckus, and at that very time, the class representative formed a good, believable story to act as a safeguard. As per them, all of the hero candidates had to head out at the earliest, as per the orders, and that proclamation passed even more anger to Erasure, as he felt he was being treated just like a dog. On the next day, they had finally reached the holy kingdom of Digerus, at the magnificent royal capital. It was looking much more lively than the desolate place they had earlier lived. It was looking like a proper grand parade, where all of them were walking right in the middle and were being praised and cheered on by the commoners. Mito even played along and acted like the head, with a raised hand and a smile. Araji Kai too felt that everyone who was standing there truly believed that these candidates were going to save them all. The very moment they reached the inside of the royal capital, they were all welcomed by the holy knight, Rains. All of them were moved to a new rest location, and they were all impressed with the lavish facility. The girls were seen enjoying a relaxing hot water bath, while the hungry group was feasting on the provided food. The others, too, were seen training all around, while Araji-kai decided to gather some vital information about the location. As always, many had moved out, and he found out that it was filled with even more soldiers. And then he passed by the holy knights, and he found them discussing things with the other soldiers, that those guys were looking even more powerful than normal kids should be. Everyone was left with a lingering question. Would they really be able to defeat the Demon King's followers, who were currently lurking somewhere inside the royal capital? The movements were getting more and more intense, but the residents believed that it would be the hero candidates, who would be saving them from any and every issue. In order to get even more knowledge, Araji-kai decided to head deep inside the sprawling city, and the best location for finding information, he decided, was the local bar for a quiet drink. There, he overheard a conversation among the people about their trust being built on the new hero candidates, as well as the powerful saint who had called them from another dimension. The church, it seemed, was holding more power than he had expected, and when the bartender offered him a drink, he instantly asked to have any info on the Demon King's followers. This country was in a desperate war with the Demon King's army, and it was him who was seducing humans with his overwhelming power. His followers were in huge numbers and had taken down a noble state just a few days ago. Araiki finally understood why the people in that city were more tense, even after the arrival of their supposed saviors. And while he was lost in the middle of his deep thoughts, Kansaki once again interrupted him, and he immediately dodged even more questions. She was offering him a helping hand. However, Araji-kai denied it and decided to continue on alone. She insisted on helping him continuously, so he gave her the task to talk to the people to gather information together, and she agreed with a very happy look on her face. During all that time, a mysterious man was sneaking up on them in a robe with a sinister smile. In the end, Araji-kai returned back to his place with no new information in his hand, and with the grim confirmation that there was a new enemy lurking. Suddenly, huge noises could be heard coming from below, and as he went to investigate, he found all of his classmates worrying about the missing Kansaki. Since she was now missing from her own room, he brushed off having any information on the missing girl, and showed that the class representative took the difficult task into his own hands and asked everyone to look all around for her. The girls showed their anger and acted in their true characteristics. While denying the search, Araji-kai headed out all alone, and on the way, he found Kansaki's dropped ID card. Suddenly, some robed men with swords in their hands tried to ambush him from all sides at once, and he still fully managed to dodge their assault, and he used one of the men as a shield to take down another. One by one, every other man was taken down, either by a swift slice or by having their skull crushed with a single hit. He understood that none of these men were properly trained. He inquired about their real goal with a very threatening face, managing to get the vital information out of the scared boy. The scene then changed, and we could see Kansaki being tied up, with some of the men approaching her with very wrong intentions. The lady was not giving any answers to their questions, and in the end, it showed their true perversion, and they removed the cover from her melons with a single quick scratch. But before they could do any more damage, Araji-kai arrived on the scene and used his judgment to realize that none of them had the capability to capture Kansaki. He tripped them all down with two small, well-aimed knives, and he came to the swift rescue of the lady. He instructed her to keep completely silent. As soon as they were relieved, they decided to head out, but they were stopped by a strange, new presence, which tried to attack them head-on with a massive sword. Araji-kai used his honed skills to swiftly dodge it, and it was then revealed to be the Holy Knight, who was now their enemy this time. Even after being from the royal capital himself, he was holding a hidden identity as the general of the Demon King's army. The entire system was hollow from the center, and the only way the Demon King could rule over them was after the swift defeat of all the hero candidates. Both of them were now facing each other down, and Araji-kai instantly used his power of judgment, his skill to get to know that the Holy Knight was a deadly all-rounder, and that he should not be underestimated in any way. The Holy Knight jumped to attack him with his gleaming sword, and Araji-kai fully dodged his lunge. However, it looked like the man had already predicted his move, and he instantly countered his dodge with powerful fireballs, shot from a magic circle on his palm. Aragi Kai got indulged in dodging all of those fireballs, and he took that very moment to slip from the blind spot of Aragi Kai, and he tried to attack him using a flame-burning sword. It looked like there was no chance for our man to get out of this trap, and it made him take out his strong card in the form of his gun, and he shot the man right in the middle of his head. The Holy Knight was left with absolutely no defense. He moved and fell down dead as the bullet passed right through, and even though Aragi Kai was not willing to use it at that moment, that man was worthy of it, being such a deadly all-rounder. Kansaki saw the entire fight unfold, but Aragi Kai acted completely normally, as a gun is a normal part of the assassination business. She thanked him for his concern, a rival saving her, and revealed that there was no impact of her domination power on any of those powerful beings. Aragi Kai immediately raised his robe and covered the lady with it, while heading out and telling her that a man on the way back had informed everything to him in great detail. When he got one of the Demon King's followers to talk, he was pleading for his own life, while revealing that he was his servant, following the orders coming from above to kill the hero candidates. He further added that the women they had captured were still alive. When they finally arrived back at the dorm, it was already the morning, and Aragi Kai was now aware that the searching had not been done by a demon, because when that man had spoken, he didn't die, even after revealing the entire truth. He further gave the lady a valuable lesson, that she should not just blindly believe anyone and get away, while keeping her own guard completely down. Kansaki did not like such an attitude coming out from Aragi Kai, and in her shock, they were facing two amazing threats, including the demons as well as the humans. Suddenly, Mito arrived on the scene and was happy that both of them were good and doing fine. Aragi Kai took the chance to take the man away for a private discussion, and he told him everything about the cult of the Diamond Demon Gang. He revealed that the hero candidates were the main target of such a demon followers, and he believed that each and every one of them was required to be much more cautious. From this moment on, Mito suggested telling the complete story to the Archbishop, but he was aware all along that she would just ask them all to delete it by themselves. Just as they were thinking of gathering everyone together, they heard a sudden, loud scream coming from the middle of the royal capital, and they further found thick smoke erupting into the air. Before they could even make a move, all of them were surrounded by a group of people with covered faces, and they were carrying spears or swords to attack them with. Without hesitating for a single bit, the hero candidates went on their guard, in order to deal with all of them at once. It looked like this new group of people had surrounded the hero candidates in different groups and at different strategic locations, divided into 4 different teams to try and capture them. The very moment Aragi Kai used his judgment skill, he found that all of them were just normal individuals, with the same strength as regular fighters. All of them moved forward to attack at once, and Kansaki immediately used her domination power to freeze them at their location, while Aragi Kai stabbed his knife right into all of their foreheads, taking down numerous candidates all at once. Mito did not like the cold approach of killing other humans. However, his thoughts were quickly shut down by Aragi Kai, who was not going to differentiate an enemy, whether it was a monster or another human being. Just then, one of the remaining followers tried to attack the class representative from directly behind him, and he just replied that he was doing all of this in order to serve his master. Kanzaki's interruption in between their one-on-one fight was quickly turned down by the focused Aragi Kai, as he wanted Mito to take care of the situation all by himself. Expectedly, it was him who was above the battle between both of them, and even though he wanted that man to surrender peacefully, the follower decided to approach him with just a broken sword. His desperate rush went successful, as he managed to slice right through the strong armor of Mito, stunning him with his own carelessness in the fight. On top of that, he started laughing like a crazed demon, and since Mito could not take it anymore, he sliced open that man's chest with a single furious strike. It looked like that being still had some life left inside of him, and seeing that Aragi Kai encouraged Mito to take the life of the enemy, as a threat must be completely eliminated. He burdened him with a lot of heavy questions about their classmates being in grave danger at that very moment, and he further inquired if the life of such a demon follower was more important than the precious life of his own classmates. Mito finally understood the task, and with a step forward, he took that man's life with a powerful, heart-stabbing attack. On the other hand, using his destructive blast power in one single go, he was showing absolutely no mercy to the others, and was somehow motivating his own subordinates too. For the third group, Nagase was leading from the front, burning down all the followers with her powerful flame magic. Yet, she was not able to cover everyone in the group, because there were a lot of them still approaching. Another big issue was that some of the other classmates were not even able to move, as they could not think of taking the lives of other humans. So, while taking advantage of this, those men started attacking the hero candidates, and just then, they arrived. The rest arrived in the form of the Archbishop. The Archbishop gave passing grades to all of the candidates, while the other men were just pissed by the sudden arrival of the saint. The bishop stayed in her usual calmness, showing her true intention to help the hero candidates when they were most in need of it. The demon followers were taking her lightly, a lady approaching them, without a single knight by her side to protect her, and they decided to attack her all at once, blindly, along with numerous of their other subordinates. It looked like the Archbishop was waiting for them all to close the distance, and as soon as they did, she used her prostrate power to put all of them down on the floor, with completely shocked faces. Her domination power was far superior to Kenzaki's in terms of sheer range, effectiveness, and many other things. Relieving the dire situation, Nagase thanked her profusely for the help while she just brushed it all off with a gentle, knowing smile. Then, she noticed that the demon followers on the floor were being ignored, so she continued with the task and ordered everyone to kill them all. Suddenly, those zero candidates' bodies also started moving against their own will, with the weapons now in their own hands. And even though they did not want to do anything, they ended up killing those guys mercilessly, against their own will. Hiraji Kai was looking after all of that event happening from up above, and he was too impressed with the domination of level 3, being used on such a large number of different people, with such a defined and massive range. To be sure, they wanted to come up against it with a strong countermeasure. However, after 12 hours had passed from the previous attack, it looked like there were still a lot of their classmates in a pretty bad mental condition, with the lingering shock of killing human beings with their own hands. Narumi was the most pissed off amongst all of them, and the class representative came forward to take full responsibility for all of it, while the others tried to calm him, as there was no role that he had played. Araji Kai was aware right from the very beginning that even though they had arrived much earlier, there were no match at all for the Archbishop's incredible skills, as when they were planning, they had decided to split into 2 separate groups in order to try and save their other classmates, but they were not successful in saving the one group which was being controlled by the Archbishop to kill those people so inhumanly. One thing was now sure in the head of Araji Kai, that since a lot of men from the Demon King's army had been taken down, they were not going to make another move anytime soon, and thinking of something very important, he asked Kansaki to come with him and decided to take her out. Reaching a secluded location, he told her that, in order to deal with the Archbishop's powerful domination skills, he wanted her to try and use that skill upon him, and this suggestion made that lady blush profusely, releasing the tense surroundings that they were in. The scene then turned to the next day, as a massive parade had been organized to celebrate the summoning of the hero candidates. It was a kind of a proof celebration, to showcase the incredible power held by these kids, as everyone in the capital welcomed them all with wide-open arms. It looked like everyone was thoroughly enjoying themselves, and the parade was indeed grand. However, Araji Kai found it to be quite suspicious, while looking at the Archbishop, reacting so normally, and turning out to be more dangerous than ever. Finally, the parade reached the main royal palace, and they were informed that they all had to head back to the place where they were first summoned, which was the temple city of Alpha. The Archbishop was not going to be heading along with them, so the one accompanying them on their journey would be Gaius. Nagase was chilled out and seemed to be enjoying it. However, her entire mood quickly changed as she turned back to see the poor condition of her other 2 classmates. They were shivering in fear and ended up tripping over their own feet. When the Archbishop casually approached them to ask about their condition, she reacted once again as if nothing at all had happened, but this just pissed Nagase off even more. So, her friend controlled the tense situation, somehow managing to make her stop on her own terms. As she left, Everyone was biting their teeth in a fit of anger, but they were able to do absolutely nothing about it. Finally, all of them departed from the capital, and once again, they had camped at a location where there were only a few soldiers. Arashur decided to go with a plan he had cast out before, and Araji Kai was rating the condition as being pretty good, mentioning that the archbishop was not present, and the soldier count was extremely low too. Even he himself was not going to stop them this time, because it was the perfect time to try and kill the knight. Narumi played the role of seeing a monster that resembled a dragon. However, he was not able to find it when he took them all to that particular location. Gaius was performing his duties according to the plan. He needed to execute and completely eliminate the threat. And just as Nami continued his convincing act and pointed to a location, he made him fall to get him on his guard. Arashur, from directly behind him, instantly jumped out and used his destructive blast to attack him, which was a pretty close call. The massive impact of that attack was clearly visible on the knight's head. Arashur was impressed with the raw strength posed by the old man. However, he had already planned a second attack, in the form of a hidden landmine. So, at the moment the old man tried to move backward, he was busted with a massive landmine attack. The trap had worked just fine, and it pissed the old man off even more, as it was a cheap trick. Arashur, being a true delinquent, was not even flinching a single bit with such a proclamation. Before the old man could think of a better way to come out, he was completely surrounded by the other hero candidates. An order was given by the delinquent head to show him no mercy. The old man understood that there was no way out of this trap, and so, he launched a glowing blue ball up into the night sky, confusing everyone as it acted like some kind of a signal. Everyone from the camp could clearly see it, and it was time for them to realize that the boy had finally messed up big. The soldiers understood that it was a distress signal, and they decided to head directly to that very point. Araji Kai immediately interrupted and sliced the soldier's throat, stunning every single other soldier there. He then continued with his assassination of every other soldier, killing them all mercilessly and without hesitation. Being completely untrained and without enough divine protection, they were not able to do anything else to stop him, rather than just waiting for their life to be sliced off. All of them had a lot of questions for him, but Araji Kai neither answered even a single one, and he killed everyone. On the other hand, the old man was already completely surrounded by the hero candidates, and they were trying to fight with him in the best manner they could. Nami used a powerful wind lens, and the others to just increase the power, using their own unique skills to point it directly toward the old man. The knight somehow managed to deftly dodge it, but he was not aware that there was a slow attack, now coming from his right side. But his efforts were met with no success as his sword began to block. It started to crack and shatter, as the candidate he was now facing was using the divine protection of a body harder than steel. Before the old knight could even recover from this shocking turn, Arashur struck him again, unleashing his destructive, explosive power, sending the old man flying far backward from the impact. Gaius's body was now a gruesome canvas of a bloody bath, and he had already lost one of his hands in the brutal exchange. Everyone was still confused about the purpose of the distress signal. However, the battered knight breathed a sigh of relief as his saviors arrived. His rescue came in the form of the formidable archbishop herself. At one end, the hero candidates were completely terrified to see her, while on the other hand, all the soldiers had been bound and tied up, all the doing of Kansaki. She was simply following the orders given to her, which was quite an unexpected turn, given her true proud character. Araji Kai then stepped forward to reveal that he was the one behind it all. By now, all of the soldiers had been either caught or swiftly sliced down. Araji Kai had orchestrated all of this, because he was completely sure that Arashur could handle the old knight. Now, the class representative could finally understand the real reason behind everyone being so completely out of his sight. Mito, being so naive, truly believed that Araji Kai was on his side in this fight. However, he was only doing whatever he selfishly liked for himself. In the end, Mito decided to head out to find and confront Araji, believing that he was going to stop him from moving ahead with his own plans. The archbishop maintained her eerie and unsettling calmness, and she openly mocked the old man for being the one losing the match. The other candidates were unable to understand what they should be doing. However, Arashur knew that there was no other choice left for them but to fight her, while the others were still completely terrified to even face her. The archbishop herself believed that those candidates only relied on their divine protection and had absolutely no information at all on mana. This fact made them true weaklings in the realest sense of the word. A battle of pure confidence was continuously raging on between both of them, and his defiance mocked the great archbishop, who then decided it was time to cut off his sharp fangs. Gaius was stunned to hear such a cold and heartless proclamation at once, but that lady believed that she was far more loved by her god than those who filled these foolish, impudent kids. Arashur just foolishly plunged in for the first attack. The archbishop immediately used her skill to first call up the land, which then violently attacked him from below his feet. She then combined it with a furious attack of wind that launched a barrage of sharp wind lashes to take down the strongest contender from that rebellious group. One by one, the archbishop called for both fire as well as water to take down the other candidates, forcing them to their knees. Despite this, Arashur once again showed his resolve for the attack, but he was stopped in between by the class representative and his team. When he asked for the reason, Arashur grimly revealed that he truly did not like the pacific method that the boy was using. The other candidates believed in the very same manner as he was saying, and along with Nagase, a little fight among them soon ensued. To this sight, the archbishop openly mocked them all. Instantly, she further informed them all that there was no way that she was ever going to forgive them if they dared to stop their rebellion now. At that moment, with no other option left to them, some of the candidates were completely terrified, while the others were busy greeting a new plan. However, before they could even have a chance to react, the archbishop used a powerful spell of wind to counter the enemy, and she used his own skill to dominate and then counter. Two massive funnels of a typhoon could be seen in different colors, with Narumi being the one who was pushed down by the blue one, and the other classmates were all caught by the other one. Mito was both confused and shocked to see his mates so injured, and they were not able to move at all. So, the delinquent came forward to rise up again, and he motivated the class representative to finally join the fight, in order to save all of their classmates. Mito joined in, and so did Nagase with their other classmates. The battle finally began between the one who had summoned, and the ones who were summoned directly from the parallel universe. The archbishop was now ready to face them all. That complete, epic event was witnessed by Araji Kai and his secretary, who were both going to interrupt the fight. Once she was finally done using her enslaved magic, it looked like the real battle was finally going to start, and both sides were now facing each other down. Gaius came in front to handle the front lines, and to help the man, the archbishop used her healing skill at a level that even healed his arm, making him totally fit with no exhaustion or even blood on his body. He then raised his sword to face the ones who were standing there in front of him. The hero candidates believed that they now outnumbered their enemies, while the archbishop was straightforwardly challenging them all to attack, in order to test just how much they had grown. Mito decided to be in the front for the first attack, with all of the others covering him up from behind. The moment that their swords finally collided, Gaius looked pretty tense, knowing he could not win a battle like that. So, the archbishop decided to help him out by launching a barrage of water crystals toward the boy, and she made Gaius use her fire magic to try and melt those crystals. The fire was good, but it was not enough to melt down each and every slice. So in the end, Mito was forced to face those crystals on his own body, which then injured him to some small extent. Hashimoto decided to join the battle, and she used telekinesis to lift rocks, while Narumi used his wind slashes to join in with the other attack. Both of their powerful skills were pinpointed to the archbishop. However, the moment it was about to reach her, a shield, it protected her from each and every single one of the attacks, stunning the others as to what had just happened before them. She was being protected by a holy divine protection of level 5, which was told to Araji Kai when he had used his judgment skill. He knew that the only way to win against her was a physical attack. However, the powerful knight was in between to protect her from that. She was the one who was fighting with the old man, and she was looking tired from using her skills again and again on him. He decided to handle him all by himself, and he asked the leader to go with all of the others. Mito realized that his own skills were not going to work against the archbishop, and at that very moment, he was handed over a physical shot by one of his classmates to use it as an attack against her. It looked like the leader was now ready to cut that lady down, and at that moment, she decided to use the wind lashes against the man. He carefully tackled it, using his physical strength in a very good manner. The other candidates, also realized that their divine protection was of no use against that lady, so they decided to save the ones who were lying on the floor, and not to interrupt the battle on the front lines. Arashur was keeping up with the brutal pace against the old man, and it looked like he was finally taking over him in raw strength. He immediately realized that the old man didn't have enough strength, and the old man knew that the kid was also out of it, and that he could not use his divine protection. In the second battle, the scenes were completely different now, as the Archbishop was the one who was leading the way through her fire attacks, giving an understanding to the man that he could easily die if he didn't manage to dodge even one single attack. He himself was desperately finding a way out to win against her. The Archbishop, on the other hand, was continuously maintaining her distance from the young man, and she was praising him for dodging those attacks so continuously. Mito, realizing that the only way to win against her was to close the distance, understood that there was no way his other classmates could ever help him. With his divine protection, he moved much faster than usual, not wasting a single second, and he executed his next move. She tried to repel him using her wind spell against him. Araji Kai continuously dodged while keeping up with the fast pace, and so she used her spell of domination to make him fall down, and then she attacked him with a powerful fire spell, making him burn right in the middle of his way. The Archbishop was impressed to see his exceptional rate of growth, but it was of no use to him in the end. He was now lying on the floor, unconscious, with absolutely no movement at all. In the second battle, it looked like the tables had been completely turned, as Arashur was taking his time to think of a way out, and taking that chance. The old man used that slight moment to launch an attack on his chest, making him bleed, and he went down on his knees. The old man once again mocked him for being a complete amateur, having no standing at all without his divine protection. Those sharp words made him remember his own past life, where he had taken down kids of his own age without any power, and with that newfound motivation, he stood up against the man, stunning him to see that even though the blade was piercing his chest, he was bearing absolutely no pain. Arashur, holding on to his palm with all his strength, punched that man right on the face, and made him travel a long distance, and fall hard to the ground in the end. The results were now declared, and the kid turned out to be the winner. The table had now turned in the second brutal battle. Mito stood up once again, suddenly remembering about the suffering his dear friend had to bear if he hadn't done it all by himself. The Archbishop was impressed by him once again, and she was about to add another sentence. However, Araji Kai, without wasting a single precious second, jumped at an intense speed to deliver a powerful blow on her body, and he made her dodge his sudden attack, causing her to fall back. She got a moment to try and react, and just then, before she could understand what had really happened, Mito tried to attack her from directly behind, and she used her divine protection to block his attack. But it was of absolutely no use at all, as it was broken with a single touch by that powerful sword. She immediately realized that Mito was closing the distance with his fast speed, and she added some more compliments to the prices, and she called him a true child of the god. There, he used his instant movement once again, in order to close the distance, and he pointed his sword right at the neck of the lady. However, something mysterious made him stop in his tracks, as the next command she gave told him to kneel down. He then fell to the floor due to the domination she had used on him. Out of absolutely nowhere, her card was finally used, and so it was time for Araji Kai to finally interrupt. The Archbishop had finally used her powerful enslaving magic, and so his other friends tried to help him, using their divine magic against her. However, she used her spell on them all as well, making them all fall under her complete control. She gave all the candidates their passing grades once again. It was a little depressing to see her own knight fall short in the battle, but she was not tense even a single bit, as she could control those candidates. Even Mito had now completely given up all of his hope, and it was done when she revealed that she had the power to control them all from the very beginning in order to save them from any threat. Just then, 3 knives were hurled her way to attack her from behind. However, she used her powerful shield to protect herself, because she was aware that one of the candidates was hiding since the very beginning, and it was none other than Araji Kai. She believed that there was something dicey about him right from the start, but she was quite disappointed to see him attacking from behind instead of confronting her directly up front. She then also used that same enslaving magic on him, also making him stand completely still, and she was looking happy with her approach. Out of nowhere, there was a hole that appeared in her shoulder. It was then revealed that Araji-kai had used his gun against her, but he had somehow just missed his mark. The Archbishop was not able to understand how the boy was still moving, even after her powerful spell had been cast on him, and she was pretty much confused about the strange weapon Araji-kai had used. He confused her with his words, to make her realize that he was up front, while the Archbishop then used her divine protection of fire against her enemy, making him fall for her trap once again. Unexpectedly, he moved out of the location in a flash, leaving only his robe behind him, and then stunning her from the left side with a gun, which was pointed right at her head, at a very close point-blank range. There, he revealed that her powerful magic would not work against him, while the Archbishop was left completely confused. Araji-kai himself was not aware of the true reason behind it all. It looked like his great gamble had worked, and as he turned back behind him, he had asked Hansaki to use her domination skills against him. At that time, Kanzaki was misinterpreting the whole situation, but then he had told her that while he was researching, he had found some quite different information. He then explained that the first cast spell would take priority over any newly casted one that followed. In short, he was asking Kansaki to use her own domination skill on him first, before he headed out to battle against the Archbishop. This was still a very big gamble, because there was a huge level of difference between the domination skill that Kansaki had used on him and the one the Archbishop was currently using. His only support for this gamble was the event when Steady had dominated the domination skill that was used by Kanzaki against the monsters, which clarified that the magic that was cast first would have a greater impact. Gambling on this one possibility, he was now standing in front of the Archbishop while he was moving on. Her domination skill on Kansaki was now working on him at that moment, as she was standing behind that cheap and clever trick, and she was finally approaching, as was Araji-kai. Hence, he was touching the trigger to launch the final bullet, a second bullet right in her belly, and she was now down on her knees. There was now a handcuff on her hand, which was sealing her magic bar. It was something that she had gotten from the Demon King's army. The deal was now open for her to send them back to their own universe, and to get herself free from them. Actually, the Archbishop had not been in possession of that kind of magic, to send them all back to their own place. The lady was surely not telling a lie in there. She then revealed that summoning was something which required a huge and vast amount of power, and that it could only be done by a god. In simple words, it was all the doing of a god, and the deal was to send them all back when their task in that verse was finally and fully completed. Actually, such a summoning had been done multiple times before, and the only way they had been living in that country was either by complete annihilation from the Demon King's army, or by being lost forever. Araji-kai's heart was not telling him to fight the demon army after hearing all of that, and so the Archbishop realized that they were all going to live in that country, now forever, and in the end, they would be annihilated the moment the Demon King's army attacked them. Araji-kai was in no mood to hear anything else from her, and so, he had already raised his knife to finally kill the lady. Mito stopped him, and revealed that since that lady could not help him in getting back to his own place, he had decided to keep the status of a hero candidate. Even though they had now been declared as prisoners of war, the Archbishop decided to just play along with them, and to react like nothing had ever happened at all. In actuality, Araji-kai immediately went on making new calculations. What would actually happen the moment that they were going to release the Archbishop? And the only clear answer was that Kansaki would be her first target. She would surely try to kill her. Mito believed that they could not kill a saint, and so he decided to release her once she had made a deal to help them all in the future. The other hero candidates all supported that proclamation too. Nagase, on the other hand, was pretty concerned about finding a new way to make her stick to her given promise. However, Narumi was not ready to trust her at all anyhow. Everyone went into a deep thought about finding a new way forward, and Araji-kai was now aware of Mito's dire situation, because he was now thinking about everyone else. Araji-kai took the chance and he shot that lady right in the middle of her head, with absolutely no moment to even move. The other hero candidates were totally stunned to see that, and at that very moment, before they could even question him, he used another one of his smoke grenades once again, and he disappeared right from before their very eyes. Mito was left with a lot of questions in his hand, and the others now realized that the man was really selfish, and that he only ever thinks about himself. It looks like Kenzaki was aware of this for a long time, and as the flashback now turned, he had told her about the plan which he was going to use to capture Das, and that, if it turned out to be impossible, that he was going to kill her instead. Even though he had thought of killing the girl, if she was unable to send them back home, in a negotiation. He was doing all of that to take the great sin of killing a saint on himself and himself only. And he was going to return to the Empire after completing the task. That man was going to act alone to find the way out, and he was asking that lady not to worry about him. On the other hand, Kansaki was more worried about it. On the other side of the vast empire, at a truly terrified place, we could see a man sitting on a throne and giggling to himself after listening to the situation of the hero candidates, who were trying to attack them all. On a bright and sunny morning, we could see Araji-kai walking and going out through the deep forest and heading to a city, as 2 weeks had already passed by. At a cliff, you could see his target clearly, and he reached there one night. As was expected, somehow, he sneaked into the tall grass to reach the city walls, and he decided to climb up in the dark pitch of the night to get away from the tag of the invasion. The first step to decide in that city was to earn some money, as even though he had something after killing the soldiers, he decided to go to a local tavern to find some good people. Reaching the main counter, he ordered a glass of drink and something to fill his empty stomach, and he then introduced himself as a simple job seeker who had been forced to leave his own hometown. He then outright asked if there was any kind of job, and he was immediately suggested to become an adventurer while the man was handing over his drink to him. It's a kind of job where you are requesting to be received from the guild, and where you are paid for waste, subjugation, or some other kind of task. The bartender was more than convinced that the boy was capable of the task, as his eyes were telling him everything he needed to know, and he even reconfirmed it with a new statement when he was asked by the man in his adjacent seat. The registration for the job was too easy, as they were not even asking him for any kind of identification. At the moment his food was served, as the bartender was also a part of the adventure group a long time ago. The next day he woke up in the inn, and then he immediately headed out, thanking the kind innkeeper, and he was telling her that this day would be quite a long one. It was good that no one was aware yet that he was one of the hero candidates as of yet, so he decided to keep his guard up at all times. He immediately headed towards the local adventure guild, and as soon as he had opened up the gate, he found that it was quite busy at the reception desk. He showed his concern about joining the group as an adventurer, and the charge for it was 1 silver coin for the registration. He then decided to give a different name, Siren, being someone who had left his own hometown after the terrible invasion of the dreaded Demon King. The registration was now done, and he took his leave. A stem was given, and the receptionist told him about the hierarchy, which was divided from A to F, based on the achievements. The higher ones have high regards, and so, they have higher level quests. Due to his brand new registration, he was posted into a friend group. Everything was posted on a large bulletin board, and he immediately had to wait to check which one he should choose. One of the ranks was for a subjugation, and he decided to take it as a typical man would. Some villain then tried to face our new adventurer, and he started mocking him for choosing such a harsh subjugation mission. Araji-kai was just pissed off enough with such childish mocking. Still, he kept his usual calmness, and he thanked them for their concern. Those adventurers did not like such an arrogant attitude from him, and the other adventurers were already well aware of those silly guys, who were always taking a battle with any newbie they saw. One of them then tried to attack Araji-kai, but he caught him by his hands, and he put him into a tight lock, a move he had learned from his hard skills of assassination. The adventurer immediately asked for some help from the other two, and those two also joined in on the battle with him. Expectedly, he took all 3 of them down with his honed skills, and he passed by all of them while he was looking at the request. Without wasting any more time, he decided to head to the forest to complete the given task, and so he started searching for the hideout through any footprints and other various clues. Those footprints then took him in a certain direction, and he realized that there was some kind of presence that was not alone. For sure, it turned out to be the monster who then tried to attack him from behind using a crude sword, and the moment that he could just counter its attack, another one tried to attack him from directly behind him. Cheerfully, he dodged the attack, and he used some sand to distract one of them, and he attacked the other one with a strong kick under its chin. As soon as that cupboard fell down, he then sliced the throat of the very first one, shocking the other one, and before the other one could even run, he threw 2 knives in its heart and in its belly, taking the other one down too. Upon judgment, he came to know that those cobras were of no real threat to a person who was having divine protection on himself. Stunning the other adventurer, he bought the evidence of killing them, and he presented it on the table of the receptionist, which even shocked her too. And she reconfirmed if he was really a new adventurer. Araji Kai had all the strength, but the real issue was the exploration, which made an adventurer's job very complicated. The other adventurers were still in a state of confusion over such happenings, while the receptionist just went away with the rewards for his hard job. Later that same night, he was holding an even bigger pouch than the one that he was holding much earlier, and with that, he decided to stay in the city for quite a while, and as an adventurer. Just then, when he was on his way to head back, he found a strong man standing in front of him, who introduced a B-rank adventurer, and the one responsible for the guild branch. Actually, that man was just pissed off at him for thrashing their men. Araji Kai tried to get out of the tense conversation by telling him that those guys had started it. However, Lyle was in no mood to hear such things, and without giving him a chance, he delivered a strong punch right to Araji Kai's face. Araji Kai did not react a single bit, and he continuously dodged those attacks, and he started to make fun of him. The next moment, when Lyle tried to deliver a strong kick, Araji Kai countered his kick, and he made him trip on the floor, with a second, swift kick to his legs. He then started making fun of his fighting technique, right in front of his face, pissing him off even more than before. The moment that he tried to attack him again, Araji Kai put him into a lock, with his belly flat on the ground. Realizing that Lyle was not trained to fight humans for the very first time, Araji Kai showed a little bit of concern for the guy, and he took him to the tavern and he told him the complete story. From the very beginning, Lyle immediately apologized in front of everyone for the big misunderstanding, and he then thrashed the other 3 who had tried to lie to him. All of them then apologized for their wrongdoings while lying on the ground and protesting normally. He then decided to end the conversation with some more questions. Lyle agreed for it, and he told Araji Kai from the beginning that as a traveler, he needed to earn money to make his stay in the city, and he was about to discuss another, deeper reason. Lyle was pretty much eager to know such a strange reason. Thinking about anything else, Araji Kai declared that he wanted to travel to another world, and this shocked everyone who could hear it through their own ears. Everyone was now well aware of the hero candidates, and Araji Kai took the chance to then tell them that he wanted to travel to their own hometown. Actually, those adventurers were not that much familiar with magic, and even the podium was not that much, keeping the hope of having such extraordinary information from a beer and an adventurer. They were all aware that there was one sage, named Albana, who was an elf that had helped that country in the past. Araji Kai remembered that it was one of the names from the best 11 great sages, and those guys all lived in the deepest forest, with only a few of them left. Also, it was known that Albana had lived for more than 100 long years, and was pretty much knowledgeable about powerful spells. There was some information that Araji Kai was already aware of while he was reading books in the large library, but they were still questioning if there was some kind of well, who could send them all back to their own place. The only issue was that the man was not aware of its true location, and even though Araji Kai thanked him for whatever information he had given him, however, the moment that he was trying to head out, he was stopped and he was asked what he was planning to do after knowing the way to travel to another world. But he did not answer, and he left them all in great suspense. The very next day he was again handed over a huge amount of reward for the quest that he had performed, and he had saved up a heap of tea through the past week's hard work. He was not ready to waste even a single bit of time that day, and he headed out as he had some kind of information on the great sage. This would be useful, as per the information that she had helped that country in its desperate time of need, and that's why he decided to finally leave that city and go to pay a personal visit to that powerful sage. The scene then changed to the Holy Temple of Alpha, where we could see 4 individuals all sitting down together and discussing how they had been taking care of the candidates after the following of the Archbishop's orders. The man who was inquiring about it was the holy man, Order Captain Henrik. One of the individuals turned out to be Mito, who was very satisfied with all the services, as he was gaining the kind of respect that he now deserved in being the brave leader of all the candidates. Erasure was also present there, too, and he was impressed with Henrik's kind nature. Finally, the Holy Knight came directly to the main topic, about mobilizing the hero candidates for battle, and those people were going to be sent to the front lines. At once, Henrik confirmed it, and he told him about the coming battle, which was already going on at the western border, between the Holy Kingdom and the Videra Kingdom. All of the demands were now being agreed upon, as the Holy Knight had even agreed on providing some protection to those who were not able to join the battle, while giving them some other tasks to do in the meantime so that they could earn their own livelihood. The candidates were now totally unimaginable. He then informed them to head out for the task by the next day. Back when the candidates were heading back to meet with the others, Hashimoto was very happy, and so was Mito, aware that the candidates could not be controlled by the power that was processing at that very moment. At that moment, Hashimoto remembered Araji Kai, as after the killing, he had left the place, leaving the bishop and her soldiers totally stunned. All the candidates presented the matter like it was all the doing of Araji Kai by himself, and they declared him to be a traitor who had run away after completing his heinous task. The soldiers started to discuss this among themselves, needing a proper and thorough investigation into the matter. And even the bishop found that the story was too leaning to be true. Erasure got pissed off while the bishop raised a new question, of all of them being involved in completing such a heinous task. Mito started shivering, and he had no words in answer to her. And then, a soldier came up to the bishop, acting as a piece of evidence, to tell him that the other candidates were trying to protect her, while the one who had failed had now run away. Some of the soldiers then joined in on the conversation, giving a new belief to the bishop, and making him confirm the true power that the man was holding. Mito acted normally, to tell him that he was a strong candidate, who was hiding his power all of the time. The conversation then moved ahead, and it was revealed that it was the one who was playing with the soldiers' minds, or their domination power, and making them speak those words on which the bishop had now relied. In the present day, Hashimoto, still based on Araji Kai, left with no other words. Mito just smiled in a green way. Deep down in his own heart, he was already aware that Araji Kai had done it all for his sake. She was the one who had taken all the blame of killing a saint, upon only himself. As Mito reached out to inform them all about the kickstart of the battle, asking the ones who were capable of fighting to turn up a bit, the old knight started mocking them for not relying on their own decisions. In truth, those candidates were now to march alongside the Corps and the Knight Henrik, and would operate completely under their authority and command. Kenzaki appeared suddenly, her voice laced with worry, inquiring about any news of Araji Kai, only to be met with a grim, negative response. Even after deploying so much manpower, he had vanished without a trace. Just then, Nagase's voice cut through the tension, a furious flame igniting in her palm, her eyes blazing with a fierce determination to kill the one who had plunged them all into this desperate condition. As the plan was set, the entire group of hero candidates moved out with a massive convoy. It was a huge procession, with the hero candidates marching in the very center, heavily guarded by the stoic Henrik and his disciplined men. The candidates, however, were forced to walk on foot. They were growing weary and tired so very easily, and their long march was destined to continue until darkness fell. Even the students were hoping for something interesting to finally happen, but they were still left feeling utterly displeased. Interrupting the mundane flow of the convention, Erasure raised his hands to signal a halt, proclaiming a strange and menacing presence he was now feeling. The hero candidates immediately went on high alert, on their guard, while the others were quite pissed that the entire convoy was stopped. When Mito tried to explain the dire situation, the soldier just arrogantly called off his pointless request, and commanded him to simply follow his given orders. Erasure, being the hot-headed delinquent he was, did not take that comment lightly and raised him into the midair, while Mito desperately tried to calm him down. But before their fight could escalate any further, monstrous figures erupted from the surrounding bushes. It turned out to be a horde of sharp rabbits with long, razor-sharp nails and surprisingly heavy, muscular bodies. All of them instantly launched an attack on the convoy, and those very same soldiers were completely unable to counter the overwhelming strength of the rabbits. The hero candidates rushed to the rescue of the men. Arashur used a massive explosion to take down one of them at once, and then brutally crushed its skull with a fierce kick to its head. His brutal attack then continued on to the others. He continuously unleashed a barrage of explosions, giving a strong feeling and a surge of motivation to the other candidates. Even though he was successful in facing all of them completely alone, he realized that this meager power was not useful at this moment, because he was feeling himself falling far behind the shadow of Araji Kai, the one who had taken out the great archbishop all at once. From the very beginning, he had harbored a kind of scary feeling, even back in their previous world, as Araji Kai had never shown any fear towards him at all. All of those recent activities were a clear and undeniable declaration that the boy was truly and terrifyingly strong. This is why when he first received the awesome power of the explosion, he truly believed that he had finally stood above the level of Araji Kai. But once again, he had failed in his quest, and it was a miserable and bitter failure. His burning anger was completely visible to the other hero candidates, but he just knocked off the following conversation, stating coldly that it was all for nothing. Since then, the scene turned to the great, imposing walls around the western border fortress, and numerous guards were now engaged in guarding the fortress. All the candidates were then welcomed by the Holy Knight Order. She was the captain who was promoted just now, as the previous ward captain had died just a week ago. Even though she wanted them all to get some rest at once, a panicked soldier suddenly arrived, screaming about the sudden arrival of the Demon King's army on the fort. Instantly, they all decided to mobilize their forces, and so Mito asked everyone to prepare themselves for the coming battle. Warning bells were rung to mark the arrival of the Demon King's vast army, which was now filled with different, terrifying colored beings. They came like a massive, unstoppable stampede towards their target. Hemric commanded the archers to reduce their number by burning them all to ashes, and so, as soon as they raised their bows, some other mage members cast their magic to raise a fire, and they pointed it towards the arrows, making it reach the hordes of demons. At the very time of the attack, it looked incredibly intense, but it was not able to give any real impact to those monsters, as they were still determined to kill every single human who was standing in the fortress. Amelia told the same grim news to the leader of the hero candidates, and she asked all of them to obey the orders of Hemric, while she would go down and fight alongside the others. Hemric thought for a bit, and he said that the loose heads were already in the battle. And so, when Mito looked down below him, he found a great and powerful explosion in the middle of the fight. It turned out to be Arashur, who had already taken down a small mountain of monsters. With that single explosion, along with his subordinate delinquent being base, all of them, again, had to prepare themselves for the attack in the future. The same devastating consequences in the form of fiery explosions, landing right on their faces. Some of the monsters had managed to get through the fortress while breaking it down with their sheer raw power, and they started taking out the soldiers with great ease. And just then, they arrived, the savior of that group in the form of Mito, wielding his majestic and shining sword. The more rounds of monsters that increased, he expanded his powerful sword, and he sliced all of them in one single attack from the middle. It was a great battle to win, and so, he immediately asked his men to get into the fight, as they could now easily win it. He did all of that to create a new motivation among the others, remembering Araji Kai, who had done all of that for their own sake. Harsha was using her powerful telekinesis, while Nagase used her deadly flame attack, along with Kanzaki's domination skill in all of the battles. The monsters were now seen on their back leg, and the soldiers were impressed to see the true power that was possessed by all the hero candidates. The battle was intense, and those monsters finally lost the battle, with the hero candidates emerging out as the victorious ones. Finally, Captain Amelia declared that the Demon King's army had been defeated. Henrik, in the evening, inquired about the final outcome of the battle, and even though they had clearly won the fight, Mito was not so satisfied with the outcome, due to the availability of so much room for their improvement. Henrik praised him for being so cautious and careful. Further, he asked him to be on his guard, as there were surely some of the highest-ranked monsters among them. When the night arrived, the scenes shifted to the demons' dark hideout, where a detailed report was being presented to their dark leader about their complete failure in capturing another important fortress. That man was the highest executive of the entire Demon King's army, from the 4 heavenly kings of the earth, Stone Gaia, on the other side of the vast fortress, at the Holy Kingdom in the great forest of Arajikai was seen walking in to finally meet the great sage. Just then, 3 elastic, long, red-colored tongues were seen attacking him from one of the sides, and they turned out to be from 3 terrifying monkey monsters. As he used his powerful appraisal skill, he found that those were the deadly tongue baboons, with good stats on their powerful tongue attack. Arajikai instantly took out his deadly thrown knife, and as one of the monkeys tried to attack him again, he dodged it, and he closed the distance between them. He faced a backlash when that monster tried to attack him with its paw. 2. Arajikai somehow dodged it from all 3 of the monkeys, and he found him, the one who was backing out from the fight. That monster again tried to attack him with its powerful tongue. However, this time around, he faced a severe and painful backslash, as its tongue was sliced with a thrown knife, and the slicing continued until Arajikai had reached its neck. Dodging the attack once again with ease, he sliced open its throat, making it fall hard to the ground, and the other 2 shivered in great pain. Those monsters then tried to run away from him, but Arajikai did not let them, and he ended their life in pure misery. Right at that very moment, the more he got inside the river, the more he was getting closer to the dreaded demon realm, so the masters were also getting much stronger. All of them had not been touched by the humans yet, and realizing the new situation, Arajikai decided to keep his guard up at all times. In the end, he had reached Mount Uragano, a great, natural barrier, which slows down the invasion of the powerful Demon King's army. It is said that at the highest beat, the Reaper Wolf Mountain was something where the great sage, Albana, was currently living. He was about to pass by the small village that was residing there, but the moment that he reached it, he was stunned to find it burning down in hot flames, set by the dreaded Demon King's army. Those demons were slicing down the humans like they were just vegetables, and even this location was pretty far away from the front lines, and it was also not safe at all. They were seen inquiring about their next step with Hector, who was a high-ranking demon among them, and he was leading them on their stampede. He wanted to try and enslave them, and he was asking for any information regarding the sage Albana. Their highest priority since the very beginning was the great sage, and they were going to climb the mountain by the next morning. Even though they were being accompanied by one of the highest-ranked monsters, they were all afraid of the wolves, who were untamable, and they were their fierce enemy, too. Even the domination magic was not at all effective against them, and it was heard that even the 4 heavenly kings were not able to make it possible. He had decided on defeating them to be the only way, in order to head forward for their next task. And it was supported by the other monsters with a yes at an instant. Arajikai immediately used his powerful appraisal skill, and he found that it truly was a high-ranked demon, with a level 5 of swordsmanship, which gave him an intuition that fighting it had, and would not be a very great choice at all. Hector suddenly felt that they were all being watched, and he asked their demons to find the one human that was hiding. Right away, Arajikai ran away, and he was very good at it because of his assassin skills. Even though there were some of the survivors from the village who were crying for help in the middle of the chaos, Arajikai just ran right past them because in any way he could not help them, and he was not at all responsible for them, with his main objective being to meet the great sage. He immediately headed out to climb and reach the top of the mountain. Finally, Arajikai had reached the highest point of the mountain at the Reaper Wolf. As soon as he had climbed up, he realized that there was no need for him to follow any marks, but that he needed to be cautious because the ground was very unstable. Just then, he found that he was now being followed by the Reaper Wolf, with their truly overwhelming strength. Those wolves came out in very huge numbers, and they tried to attack Arajikai from all of the sides. At once, he dodged it and he climbed up on a tree, and he used his appraisal skill to find out that those monsters had a high level of coordination and some good skills in agility and also in strength. He was calculating and finding a way out of this, and there came one of the wolves, who then slammed the tree to try and break it from its trunk, and it decided to make Arajikai fall down. He immediately used a nearby leaf that was reinforced with his mana to launch a powerful trick attack right on the neck of that wolf, and he sliced it wide open all at once. Even the other monsters tried to attack him, but he was now handling them all by either slicing them or by slamming them hard against each other. Actually, he was reinforcing himself with his own mana, and it was the Archbishop who had taught him all about it. The moment that she had mentioned their weak magic mana flow, he had taken it to the mountain mine, and he had realized that it was the real reason that they were not able to register against her domination magic. By improving the control of his mana, he could now reinforce his body with his mana, and he could increase the distance against any enemy magic while using it. He was now acting at a great pace, and he decided to keep on practicing. While climbing, Araji-kai immediately passed away from the lower ones, and he reached the pack leader. While the others were all confused about what was now happening, he did not take even one complete minute to slice that huge monster's neck clean off. As soon as it was dealt with, the other monsters all ran away from there. And it was a good and valuable lesson to learn there. He had no intention of letting those monsters go, so he started running behind them, and he felt a different kind of a strange movement. It was like he was projecting their trajectory of movement. The real presence of that one monster, after a few seconds, was similar to the others too. He kept his thrown knife at a certain location, and that monster had arrived there by itself, to get itself sliced from the middle with it. In short, he was now able to see the future in 1 second, and with that, his demonic eyes were now telling him that his training was going to be an intense one. As was stated, he completed the task within a few short minutes, and he left blood-stained monsters lying on the ground. When he had used the appraisal on himself, he found another divine protection of foresight, now being added to his deadly skill set. Basically, it was an appraisal of his enhanced blessing, and finding this new skill was now allowing him to see everything on sight. At one moment he was exhausted, and he decided to rest a bit. However, unexpectedly, he heard a strange new noise, and he immediately ran to the direction of the noise. It was not a great time to rest, and as he reached it, he found the monsters from the previous day, who were being led by Captain Hector. He was praising an elf girl, who was a disciple of the sage, and she was looking pretty brushed off from the previous battle. He was allowed to learn the final attack, and he had asked his group to kill her all at once. That lady was not ready to die just yet, but the monsters had their full intentions of doing so. They even tried to attack her, but she was then protected by Araji-kai. He carried her away, leaving the monster group as well as the lady confused about the presence of a human there. While Araji-kai was reading the new situation for the presence of 10 soldiers and their high-ranking demon leader, the only reason that Araji-kai had helped that girl was because she was a disciple of the great sage, and he had some business to do with her. He was not able to use his appraisal skill, but he was sure that she was handling some skills in a very good manner. On the other hand, Hector immediately asked his men to launch their attack all at once, and to kill both of them, while Araji-kai decided on defeating all 10 of them. In order to be able to proceed further, he was rushed from all of the sides, and so, Araji-kai immediately used his foresight to protect their movement. Once again in the future, as soon as he noticed that one of them was going to get his back to attack him from behind, he turned around and he blocked that attack, making him confused by such an impossible act. The others were also stunned, as it was never predicted by them. But soon all of them had met their end, as Araji-kai started slashing them with his thrown knife. He was now sure that he would not lose, with his foresight by his side, and it was even making Hector reckless with every passing second. So, he ordered the others to use magic bullets with their magic circles, making large balls of aura to launch right towards him. He did not look at all prepared, and so, the sage's disciple decided to intervene, and she called for his wind spirit to block all of those attacks, with a typhoon of very sharp slashes. Araji-kai was totally confused and stunned to see her using the power that was borrowed by the spirits, and he praised her for it. He soon realized that if he was not going to join the party, that they would not be able to perceive any further. So he took out his strong and powerful weapon. Araji-kai decided to tackle him all by himself. And there, the leader arrived, surrounded by an intense aura. The lady did not like her being called a disciple, and she told him that her real name was Mare. Even in that intense fight, Araji Kai mocked her further, and he rushed in for the attack. He was forced to take out 2 of his thrown eyes to counter his great one, but still it had no impact. He was overwhelmed by the slashes attack of that monster, and as he forced one of them away, Araji Kai faced a shallow, deep cut on his belly. Even when he had tried to dodge it, Hector was impressed, and Araji Kai immediately used appraisal on him to admire his great swordsmanship skill. In the end, he decided to use his final move, as Araji Kai was on halt. That man rushed forward to get himself going with the battle, while Araji Kai used his foresight to look 1 second ahead into the future, and he started dodging the attack continuously. He was pretty successful in doing it, but yet, he was not able to match the speed of the swing, which led to him getting sliced a bit on his hand. Araji Kai immediately used his powerful gun, and he shot 3 of his bullets right at that man, while he blocked them all using only his hands. His reflexes were pretty good, but yet, it had impacted the movement of that guy. He was not impressed with the device, and he tried to rush again forward at Araji Kai. Araji Kai used his very last bullet, while he did it with ease, looking at his reflex. In the end, he took out his throwing knives, and he aimed at that guy. Hector was deciding on his next move, and Araji Kai threw a grenade right in front of him, making him confused. As soon as that grenade had touched the ground, it then exploded, taking that man into it. His subordinates were pretty concerned about such a happening, while Mayor was trying her best to read the man, who was even dominating a high-level demon. Even though the grenade was pinpointed unexpectedly, it had only given a small bruise to that monster, and then that monster, without spending a single second, moved forward with a very loud scream, and he continued his attack in the form of great lashes. Araji Kai immediately used his final scale to analyze the moment, and there he looked into his foresight to look once again into the future. At the very same time, he used another scale of big point detection to look for what would be the weak point in the future after the completion of that attack. A thin, red line was depicted toward Hector's neck, and Araji Kai moved with a very swift movement, pointing that attack directly to its vulnerable neck. He successfully slit its throat, and he defeated that monster. As soon as the task was now complete, he fell hard to the ground with his knees on the ground, and it looked like he was all gone. The monsters realized this, and they found that the guy was exhausted after fighting against their leader. Also, Marin had already reached her limit after utilizing the power of the spirits, and so, the monsters decided to attack her all at once. They called an incantation, and they summoned the salamander, and those monsters were all burned in the fire, while screaming for help. Those powerful flames were on a completely different level, and their apologies had now reached the great sage, Albana, for the late arrival of the golden hairs. She was very impressed with the strange guy who was helping her disciple. She thanked him for his help, while he just called it a coincidence, confirming if that was really the great sage, because he himself was not able to appraise her, due to his low mana, and he then decided to be honest with her, without hiding anything. Albana was ready to help that guy, even if he was hiding any purpose, because he had just saved her dear disciple. All of them decided to then head back, in order to save themselves from the dangerous wolf, and to make that boy rest in order to regain all his mana. The situation was now pretty favorable for him, and he was looking happy at being home. They soon reached the house, which looked like a witch's one. Maya immediately went to take a bath, while Albana then informed him that the only reason for residing in such a remote place was to save herself from being used by other humans. Even after her official retirement from her duties, that place was to test the arrivals at her location, and she was ready to help those who had managed to get through. Without wasting any more time, he introduced himself as one of the candidates, and she understood that he was from the 3rd generation, as even the bishop had mentioned it before. The previous generations of the summoning had already been eradicated by the other demon kings. Actually, the 2nd summoning was done around 4 years ago, and the very first one was done around a decade ago. As was seen, all of them had been eradicated by this time, and they had decided on banning the summoning process. Even that sage was against the idea of performing it for the 3rd time. As interesting as it was, their own country in the hands of other people was pretty reckless. Out of the blue, Araji Kai informed her about him killing the archbishop, confirming that there would not be another summoning for sure. His words were given confirmation that the boy was surely not lying. Discussing and clearing the mess that she had created, Albana directly reached the conclusion that she could not send him back to his home, even with the spells which had stunned and broken the only hope that he was carrying at that moment. Actually, summoning was one thing that she could still do, but she could not send them back home, since there was no reason to research about it. That knowledge had already been lost into the ages. Araji Kai just understood one thing with all of it, that there was no other way than killing the Demon King, while Albana then added that it could also be done with the help of the demonic cards. Albana was just feeling a bit sorry, as she was of no help to the guy, but she was sure that he would do it. One thing that she was even sure of was that it could kill even the Demon King himself. Araji Kai was also determined for it, and he decided that if there was no other way out, that he would just have to kill the Demon King. Those words were set with a huge determination, and Albana felt that the boy was really different from the other hero candidates. Araji Kai simply thanked her for all of the information, and he told her to reach the guild if she wanted to convey something. Albana had something else cooking in her head, and as Maya arrived out of her bath, she asked the boy to join her to freshen himself up. Taking upon the chance, the sage gave the suggestion to take her disciple on the journey. Mare was just stunned to hear those words, while the sage was doing it just to meet her with her goal. Araji Kai was not even interested in taking the conversation any further, and he just refused to take a noisy girl along with him. In the next scene, we could see Araji Kai walking to the front lines of the battlefield, along with that noisy girl who was now fighting. With good weather by his side, even Mayor was confused about the changing condition around the surrounding area, because it had been so different just a few days ago, due to it being under the full control of the demons. Actually, around the western region, there was a big city and some small villages all around. But now, since the city had already fallen, the devoting army had arrived at the front line. It was going to take them 2 more days to reach the location. But the moment he inquired about the happenings with the people, the only clear answer was the eradication of half of the population, and the others were now forced to be under their control for labor. Mare was pretty knowledgeable, and she was a great help if she was taken care of properly during a journey. A flashback came when he had declared Mare to be a noisy girl. She had felt mocked while Albana was trying to tell the guy the importance of the dead girl for his new arrival. Actually, Mare had wanted that little girl to know about the reality of the world, and to give her that experience that she needed to survive. Until then, she was not finding the right person to send her with. In short, she was now interested in the girl, to Araji Kai, because she herself did not have the capabilities to go on, due to her own limits being approached so soon. Araji Kai had tried his best to inform her about his own intentions of infiltrating the demons, and he tried to depict it as being very dangerous. Albana, in the end, had left the decision to the girl herself, and she, realizing her life in a matter of seconds, had agreed to go with that man with a new goal in her 2 different color eyes. However, when it reached the present, she was tired, even after walking for just a single day, and it looked like she was the one who was now pushing back Araji Kai in reaching his target so unexpectedly. Araji Kai decided to help her while she was lying down, and he gave her a kind of hope of not being left behind for such silly reasons. A camp was then settled at that place immediately, with a bonfire in between both of them. Mary was enjoying the food while diagnosing again, and he told her about the journey being so dangerous, and he gave her the option to head back home if she wanted to. He was aware that there must be a different reason for her being a part of it. And finally, that elf girl decided to speak up. Actually, her own place, or the village that she used to live in, had been destroyed by the Demon King's own army, because it was not only among the humans and the demons, they were overwhelming every single other species. And it was the reason why her brother, her mother and her father had all fallen for it, and they were killed. All of them had acted as a bait in order to let her get away. And it was then when she was picked up by her master, Araikui, dumped her in her past, and he asked her what her real intention was. She revealed the reason for being a disciple and also a spellcaster, and the reason that she was gaining knowledge from her master since the last decade was only for her revenge, which was to kill the man who had killed her family with her own hands. The name of that demon was Wimberg, one of the 4 heavenly kings, leading the wind. The reason was pretty good, but Araji Kai was not going to fight just for her own sake. Mare was not stunned with it because of her master's decision. Actually, she had never let her get off of the house, and if she had sent her with him, then there must be a good reason behind it. It was the only reason that she was ready to follow his instructions. With those words, Araji Kai again remembered the flashback, where Albana was praising the guy, and she was handing over the kid, and he realized that Albana had known the way, that her disciple would surely die, aimlessly, if she had gone alone on the journey. Reading the surrounding situation, Mayor apologized for dragging him into her story, and Araji Kai and just asked her to head off to sleep, as they had to get on the walk again. By the next day, he put on the watch to make them a good sleep, but he was not able to sleep in the night, while remembering about the 4 heavenly demon kings. Since they were in the top 4, they surely were going to be much stronger than the higher-ranked demons that he had just faced behind him. The topics were getting intense at the moment when he was looking up at the stars, and he then decided to just get off of it, because it was not the right time. In the story of the other hero candidates at the fort, there was a meeting going on between some of the delegates, along with the leader of the hero candidates. One of the delegates was continuously screaming to go on in an offensive manner, while the other one was confused about where they should start from. Amelia raised her finger, and she pointed to the fort, which they needed to get back first, to make their frontline base even stronger. On the other hand, the found in white, reckless delegate just started mocking him for being so afraid, even with the hero candidates by his side, supporting him. Amelia supported those very words, but she was sure that the enemy might not be thinking that they were going to get so offensive, and she instantly confirmed, if the candidates were fine in their situation right then. Minda was ready to act the man, and he was commanded, but the time when he was on his way back to meet the others, Henrik added that Amelia was never, ever this aggressive in the first place. Mito was somehow agreeing with the sayings of that girl, as they were still regrouping their own forces. Henrik was aware that they were feeling overconfident at the moment, but he was not going to deny the orders of the higher-ups. They were ready to support them with their very best, and he asked Mito to inform his subordinates to get going. By the next morning, Mito himself had a very bad feeling, and that attack was exactly the opposite to what he had had in the previous one. The next day in the morning, they had reached the nearby Fort Alls, and we could see the hero candidates along with the knights on guard. They were doing it in the morning, because the demons could really see well in the dark, which would be a dangerous task for them all to face. The task was to defeat the leader of the group, while knowing that it was going to be a high-ranking one, which is why they had decided to take the lead. Their expressions were a mask of grim determination, their eyes reflecting the palpable tension. And soon, the final command to commence the operation was given. Henrik roared the command to advance, and the symphony of battle truly began. A massive tide of soldiers plunged through the fortress doors in overwhelming numbers. Amelia was at the vanguard, the first to clash with a grotesque demon and its lashing tongue. This entire chaotic struggle was being observed from above by the imposing stone Gaia. They finally breached the inside of the fort, and Mito immediately took the lead and began cleaving through the monstrous hordes from the front. The others were now counting on his strength, while Henrik was bellowing commands at the boy, warning him to never let his guard down. Not so long after, they were completely encircled by monsters from every side. The rear flank was held by Henrik and the Mighty Knight Order, while the hero candidates had to push forward with their goal. Nagase took the first step, unleashing her inferno to incinerate them, while Mito continuously carved a path forward, slicing the others down. Every single candidate was giving their absolute best, and with that, they finally reached the foreboding final door. The moment it swung open, they saw a colossal boulder-like monster. The mighty stone Gaia was standing before them, completely alone. He was the leader, and he gave them a chillingly formal introduction, proclaiming himself as one of the 4 heavenly demon kings. This was clearly not just a mere title. It was visible from the overwhelming pressure he began to emit. Stone Gaia was interested in witnessing their true powers, and this is why even the brave hero candidates immediately went on their guard. The fight was now going to be between a solo warrior, a single man facing the other candidates in huge numbers all alone. Stone Gaia immediately used his skill, slamming his hand on the ground, while casually laying his greatsword beside him. And before the others could even begin to comprehend, something monstrous started to take its form out of the solid ground, stunning the others at the sudden formation of massive golems. Instantly, those columns were formed in truly enormous numbers, and as this simple task of his was completed, Stone Gaia commanded them to kill all those candidates at once. Mito immediately gave a sharp command to Narumi, and he launched a barrage of wind cutters to slice those columns, delivering powerful shortcuts, while Ereshur furiously brushed forward to explode one of them with his mighty explosion punch, making it fall into countless pieces. He foolishly believed that those golems were going to go down with nothing. However, it was not as simple as it initially looked. The crushed, broken bodies of those monsters began rising from the ground and attached themselves again to the body from which they had fallen, ensuring they were continuously regenerated. It soon even attacked a stunned Ereshur, forcing him to desperately dodge it. The other candidates also joined the battle, and all they were able to do was simply slice that monster and then wait for its inevitable regeneration. One of them was now under the impression of being seriously hurt, and so Kansaki used her domination magic to stop it in between, while the other boy just decided to hurt it with a powerful spear. But as soon as the domination was finally removed, that same monster punched that guy hard in the face, making him fall hard down onto the unforgiving ground, and there, Hashimoto entered the battle to use her telekinesis skill to attack. Those monster attacks were truly impactful, but not really enough, as even that monster, falling on the ground, started emerging up again with its rapid regeneration. Narumi believed that they now needed to defeat the summoner at once, and so, Mito dodged those powerful golems alongside Ereshur, and they headed directly for the mighty Stone Gaia. That monster did not appreciate such a gross underestimation, and he again casted his powerful earth spell to bring out rocks from the ground, and he pointed them directly at Ereshur for a devastating attack. He instantly tried to change his own direction of movement, but astonishingly, even those massive rocks changed their direction and attacked him head-on. The others were deeply concerned for his safety, but he again went back to his senses, telling them all that he was fine, finding a small gap in the timing, and realizing that the monster had lowered down its guard. Ereshur tried to attack him from behind with his huge explosion power. However, when all the smoke had finally cleared, we could see a massive sand wall now protecting that guy, just like Gaara. That sand even acted on his command and punched Ereshur right in the belly, making him fall hard onto the ground. Stone Gaia was not happy with the skills that the hero candidates were currently possessing. At the same time when Mito and his party were fighting, one of the 4 heavenly kings, Araji Kai, had arrived at the fallen city of Nutra. They were now passing through a dark, underground tunnel, with the help of the fire lamp from the disciple of the great mage, covering their noses due to the stinky smell that was coming from the dirty water. They decided to stay completely calm to reach the underground, and they had chosen that path because the demon was higher at night. The city now being under great security, as it was at the front lines right now. Reaching a certain point, they decided to enter out of the tunnel, and the happiest person among them was Mary, to see the sky once again. Suddenly, he felt something at that very moment, and he decided to hide himself inside a large, empty container. Like a chicken, there passed him demons, discussing being chosen as the guard in the new demon's army, while the others had absolutely no motivation to work under. It looks like both of them were quite fudged due to the recent scolding from their master, and as they passed by Araji Kai, he remembered the witch that they were talking about, who was the powerful governor of the city. That lady was his current target, and was named as the Witch of Space, and that information was given to them by the sage Albana, as a woman who would be able to help Araji Kai for the initial time of his quest. They decided to gather some information before heading in directly, and the proper command given by him to Mare was to never act on her own accord no matter what. As they moved on forward, they found that the complete city was swarming with demons, who were either laughing or drinking in the middle of the street. Araji Kai was now on a higher building along with the lady, and he was finding it twice as disappointing. Suddenly, Araji Kai noticed some of the humans who were working as labor for those very demons, and the moment that they were not, they were being thrashed around just like slaves. Everyone was now aware that those were the ones who had been enslaved, and who were not killed during the Great Invasion. While he was walking, Those demons were depicting their pure madness, while delivering torture, and it pissed off Mare once again. Araji Kai felt a sudden presence, and as he turned back behind him, he found a lady with 2 horns on her head, with red eyes and a very gloomy face, confirming that they were not, in fact, demons. Without wasting a single precious second, he took out his throwing knife and he went on his guard, only to get a confirmation from the lady of not arriving for a battle. Araji Kai was just impressed with her amazing sneaking skills, as there was no way that someone like him could not feel the presence of a new enemy at the back of his head. Actually, that little girl had already noticed them. The moment that they had broken through her detection barrier, the complete place was now under her manic art of space. He immediately used his powerful appraisal magic to find that her stats were touching newer, higher heights against whatever he had encountered up until now. With some rare skills, she then introduced herself as Isabel, the 5th princess of the Waldo demonic kingdom. She immediately asked them the reason behind their arrival here, doubting if they were spies or not. Assad was sure that he was going to lose in a battle with her, so he didn't mind answering her questions, and he told her the complete story of how it had all started and of how it was now going. She just realized that the boy wanted to go back to his own world, and she then confirmed that such a thing had a possibility to happen. Araji Kai was a little happy to encounter the Great Witch of Space, and even that lady was not carrying any hatred at all against humans. The only problem for her was that, in order to send him back, she needed the coordinates of his own world, lowering the hopes of Araji Kai, and then lifting them up the very next second. That it was even possible to send him back without the coordinates back to his own world. Araji Kai still wanted to find the coordinates in order to have greater authority. But it was not an easy task, as there were many worlds in this universe. That lady was not lying, even with the eye of truth. Isabel further told him that there was a protection of God that was surrounding him at that very moment, and that it was so very strong that it could not even be reached by her own demonic power. Again, Araji Kai realized that the god wanted them to kill the Demon King. However, Isabel acted like she was not aware to such an extent. Anyhow, one thing was for sure. The product has no other choice other than to kill the Demon King, which is why he had determined himself to take the only path. The same thing that Araji Kai understood to Isabel. However, Mayor finally came up with the question of her being too cooperative, even after she was a princess of the demonic kingdom. Isabel then opened a space portal right in front of her, before she entered, and she told them that she just wanted something out of the demonic kingdom, facts which she was now going to get. Before she entered and was escaping, she told them that they had to be on their guard and be careful in order to escape from the city. Mayor took a deep breath of relief, while Araji Kai was just thinking about the great strength of the higher demons, which was now seen on a totally different level. In between their little chatter, it was created just outside the city, and it was seen that the demons were continuously searching for the spies who had infiltrated their city, giving a confirmation to the others that it was the witch who had talked to them all so nicely, and had then informed them about their infiltration product. Ness then gave much thought to why she had done that, and he just decided to leave the place. A few more seconds later, both of them were seen running on the top of the roofs, while the demons were still trying to find them somewhere inside the city. He, while running, was also reading the current situation, and realizing that all of them were having different kinds of higher-level skills, which their current selves could not fight against and win. Right at that very moment, Araji Kai stopped while he was running, which made the lady fall down. She somehow controlled herself, and then she went down for a sneak peek. Araji Kai had a feeling of a different mana at the level of the veg, and when he noticed, he found a young man standing between those demons with bold, green eyes and a horn on his head, pointing hard. Mayor's impression had completely changed now. At that moment, she had identified him to be Wimberg, as it was the very same guy who had killed her entire family back in her village. She was now falling into a state of despair, and revenge was dripping from her face, as she had finally confirmed that this was the very same man who was one of the heavenly kings of the demon, Bamberg. Araji Kai immediately used his power of appraisal, and he noticed that the boy was really very strong, with some skills like a wind attribute and also sportsmanship at the level and holding the highest level of magic traits. It was not the right moment, so Araji Kai calmed her down, and he decided to move forward with proper and due caution, as even his magic was more than enough to pinpoint their current location. Just then, a wind passed away from those, like it was searching for the culprits all along. Wimberg immediately went on the run to find the intruders, and he was sure of crushing them if they had infiltrated the city. He was a bit concerned about the hero, and he was showing on the lights, and he had pure intentions of saving themselves from any other ruckus. They were not happy with having a member by their sides at the rear point due to the caliber of the man, and that man was holding. The member was truly a lazy guy, and he never wanted to do any physical work. And just in between those gusts, which were telling Arajikai right back to their own master to tell them about the intruder's very presence. He was also aware that those guys were moving with much more care, while leaving the impression on the demons of being someone who is even able to control the gust and to read any message from it. The member was also aware that it was the witch who had allowed them to pass on, because she could always find such a little presence using her powerful demonic art. Both of them were still running, with Arajikai being ahead and taking the command and stopping the lady whenever it was required. He was aware that even though they had noticed them, pinpointing their location was a much more tedious task. Mayer noticed the gust which had been following them for a very long time. Even though Mayer could disturb the natural flow of the winds, it would give away their location, so they decided to head on without giving a touch or revealing their locations. Continuous running was still going on, while the monsters were still chasing them and finding every street. Then they were able to do so, because Mare was not able to keep up with the speed, but he asked her to just calm down further, requesting to be a decoy in order to make him get past. Before she could even comprehend, Arajikai started climbing up on the roof through the walls, and he left the lady behind him. And there he reminded her of her revenge before, hiding himself against the dark roof and leaving her on her own accord. They were happy that they were going to get one of them, and they decided to divide their team into 2 seconds, one following the girl and another following the man. Marin had already had enough, and she showed it. She called out for the powerful spirit of the salamander, and she burned all the monsters at once with her sheer power, leaving them. The other groups were not able to comprehend. However, they were able to pinpoint her new location, and they had it directly towards them. Unbeknownst to them, Arajikai was also present at the very same location, and he used his knife to slice their heads off instantly, leaving them no time at all to move. Not a single noise was created. Enough today is a big concern to the other monsters, and as the last one was still standing, he was also sliced away within a matter of seconds. Mary was still relying on her powerful spirits, and she was attacking them with the water spirit to slow them all down as best as she could. And as she saw the group for a little while longer, she noticed that a few of the monsters from the backward were disappearing, which was reducing the count of the members, as if someone was taking them down from behind. Not so long after, it was the chance for the last line to notice, and to find that they are being sliced, one, by Arajikai. Using his throwing knife, he then thanked the lady for acting as a decoy, and both of them then moved forward. That news then reached, remembering about the monsters being failures in catching them, and that is why he had decided to take that matter into his own hands, to reduce the total number of casualties. As both of them were now running away from the city, a strong wind gust had approached them, and it tried to attack them from all of the sides, using sharp needles of wind slices. Mayer, being on her guard, called up for the wind spirit to create a tornado in order to try and stop those slashes. Giving an intuition to Arajikai, he realized that the final boss had already arrived, and it was Wimberg, standing tall in the sky and looking at the intruders. Mayer once again deep dived into her revenge, as she had been waiting for this very chance for the past decade. Arajikai whispered into the ears of the lady that they now needed to keep the fight short and give their very best from the beginning and defeating him. Understanding the situation, Mayer called for the wind spirit to launch wind toward Wimber, while he just stood completely still. He then informed her that a magic circle had created a barrier, which had stopped all of those lashes at once, while he was covering him in wind protection. It looked like the man was not able to see anything, and so Arajikai rushed in with a wrong understanding, just to get caught off guard with a previous attack that he had faced. Winberg giggled a little bit to see those fools, understanding that they could defeat his powerful wind magic. And even Arajikai was Aware that there was no blind spot in that heavenly king's attack, Mary came to his rescue, and she used the wind spirit attack once again, disturbing the flow of the wind and shocking that demon. With such an event, the protagonist was pretty sure that the lady was continuously thinking of taking him down from the very beginning, and he took the moment to climb to the roof in order to reach the man by himself. Somehow, Wimberg noticed it before he could even get touched by his slash. Wimberg did it in the middle, as he was able to fly in the sky. Araji Kai noticed something through his sharp intuition, and he jumped into the midair, with the help of the spirit that was given by Mare, to close the distance between him and the monster. When the bird was shocked, while Araji Kai immediately used his foresight and weak point detection all at once to create a very fine line, marking his next movement by looking 1 second into the future. However, within no time at all, that thin line of points had started to fade away, because the man had brought out his powerful sword, which was green in color, and it was emitting light and creating pressure on him and threatening the man for his daughter. As soon as it had come out, Araji Kai had to give his very best to protect himself from every move, but he was not able to match it, even with the use of his foresight. Actually, it was the master who had taught him the skills of a man in the middle of his brain. He was then attacked by a huge boulder. Due to his keen and very sharp instinct, he was able to dodge it once again. Now, the battle was clearly between two amateurs and one very experienced individual. A new chapter was unfolding every single second as the battle moved forward for Araji Kai and Mare. In the meantime, even Wimberg had understood that they were the ones who had defeated the mighty Hector, while Mare was predestined to make him remember what he had done, with her village attacking and harming him every single night, and sleeping in the depth of her revenge. Wimberg instantly decided to take the benefit of her emotional behavior and starting to remember the day as one of the funniest in his rise, and the more he was lurking inside of it, the more his corn was getting new veins. He was now making fun of her father, who had begged for her life. He was enjoying that distorted and sick moment. Mare was about to lose her control, so Araji Kai immediately interrupted her to calm her down, and he decided to use her spell in this ongoing battle. Araji Kai was now reading the situation to find out how he can battle against this powerful man, while Wimberg was impressed to see how the boy had evolved in that battle, so much so that even being a human, he was now standing toe-to-toe with him. The only answer to the burning question was that he was one of the hero candidates who had been summoned from the parallel world, because the strongest right now, he was not on the list of Wimberg. Araji Kai was the one who was at the backlash, because he had only 5 minutes left until his foresight was going to work for him. Suddenly, Mary came up with a great idea. She murmured something quietly into the ears of Raja Kai, and they had a little banter between them, and she was going to take on the other one. It looked like it was now going to be between both of them. She used the wind spirit of Mare to fly high up in the air, and then she immediately called for the earthworm to shoot down Wimberg in the midair. Wimberg used a magic circle to protect himself from those stones. It was at the back side of him at that moment. He was doing his best to protect himself from them. Araji Kai then attacked him from another side, making him block it using his very own sword. The pebbles were still under a large wall, which looked like an act that had already been predicted by Mare. She immediately called upon the sylph spirit once again, and she pointed it directly toward the magic circle, and she made it break in the meantime. When Wimber was pretty much engaged in protecting himself from all the stone, Araji Kai also found the gap that was created due to his loss of concentration, and as soon as he had found it, he delivered a powerful slash on his hand, instantly making him lose his powerful sword. It looked like his target from the very beginning was getting his own hands on that majestic sword, and he successfully ended up with it, and he landed on the boulder. Wimberg, on the other hand, had to face all the pebbles too. Even though it is just a nil impact on Wimberg, he was not ready for what actually those guys were planning. In reality, Mare had been planning something since the last decade, and she was reading and putting all the knowledge that she had conquered into that fight. And that is why her only intention was to disturb the wind flow of his art, to drop its effect. Araji Kai was also able to understand the same thing. However, since it was not enough, he had decided to take on the sword from that man, instantly making himself mocked by Wimberg, who was pretty sure that the hero candidate was not having the skills of sportsmanship, so it would be of no impact at all for sure. Still, Araji Kai pressed forward, while canceling the wind using the sword, and he immediately qualified the distance between them with a quick rush, shocking him for not being able to read his movements. He was being pushed behind, due to the attack and Mayer's interruption through the wind. In the end, it looked like Araji Kai had an open gap where he could deliver the final, killing blow, and being pushed even more, he unleashed his veiny horn to increase its size, and the moment that Araji Kai used his foresight, he had already read it and he dodged it quickly. He then slashed his head and he knocked it off the ground. Wimber was waiting for an answer on how he had managed to evolve like that, and the only answer Araji Kai gave him was through the skill of divine protection, of copycat, which allowed him to copy the skills of his opponents. In short, he was copying all of his skills since the beginning of the battle, and that is why he was harnessing his swordsmanship skills. That was one of the skills that he got after killing Hector, and it was added to his own status screen. Post the battle, he was just sitting on the battleground and reading about his new strength that was possessed by one of the 4 heavenly demon kings, and he was trying to understand what the real strength of the real demon king would be, who was having a daughter like Isabel, with such great strength. In any case, such a thought was of no matter to him, and at that moment, he noticed Maya, and how she was feeling after her great revenge. It was quite a bit different, because that lady was just having a deep feeling of relief, because in any case, her family was already gone, and the happiest thing for her was that she was now free from her past. Araji Kai thanked her for helping him in the battle, at a significant cost, while she was a bit sad to think that, even after the practice of a whole decade, she had required the help of one hero candidate to defeat him. With a cute face and with red cheeks, she immediately thanked him for helping her in her revenge, while the lady further added that she was happy to follow him, because in any case, if she had been all alone, she might have run away or she might have been killed, meaninglessly. Finally, Araji Kai asked about her next move, since her revenge was already taken, and when the lady was lost for words, he advised her to live a long life in calmness and also in enjoyment. Mayer had quite some different intentions, and she presented a wish to reside alongside him for that moment, with the motivation of producing the number of sufferings. Once the great demon king is finally killed, she was quite insistent on being a part of him, and Araji Kai showed his agreement to her, not with any words, but by asking her to head out before the reinforcements had arrived. Both of them had left from the place, and at that very moment, Isabel arrived in Mayer, through her portal, with a gloomy face, and praising them on their strength, and being relieved on achieving what she was planning for. After all that, both of them had reached back to the mountain, and arriving at the peak, they had then met with the great sage. Even the sage had never expected them to come back in such a short period of time. And before her own disciple could reveal her true intentions, she realized that Mary had wanted to travel with a boy on her journey. After the blushing session was finally completed, the sage informed Araji Kai about the hero candidates, who had been defeated by one of the 4 heavenly kings. He was the highest executive in the King of the Earth, Stone Gaia. This somehow had survived, but he was not killed. However, one thing was for sure, that their morale was now truly down. Kai's goal was to defeat the great demon king, and so, he decided to take down the enforcement and head for the head of the 4 heavenly kings. Once again they had turned to the foot, where a number of soldiers, as well as the hero candidates, were lying on the ground and being treated by recovery agents. The leader, Mito, was also among them, while Hannah was trying to heal her with the best bat. When they were in the middle of the great battle, Hamrick had arrived with his soldiers, and he had evacuated them back to the place, otherwise they were surely going to be dead meat. Someone had some physical damage, while others had a mental injury, with the leading candidates among them being Nagase and Erasure. The reader decided to take all the blame off on himself. The next day at Fort Arliss, we could see Stone Gaia sitting at the top of the fort, while Araji Kai was seeing him from a long distance away, confirming the existence of one of the 4 heavenly demons. He was able to do it due to his increased level of his appraisal, and by using it, he was able to read that even after reaching the age of 75, that man had some real strength and experience, as well as S-rank skills too. As soon as he had used the advanced appraisal on that guy, he found that he was the real cause and having a big advantage in his defense as it multiplied. Furthermore, when he used the third skill of finding the weak point, he noticed that there was no such changer mark, revealing that he now needed to work on himself before going into a battle with him. Mayer was just aware that the Heavenly Demon King was good at physical strength and also in handling earth magic, and a special ability to boost up his own defense. She had shared a great idea that earth magic is weaker against water, but all of it depends upon the compatibility and the level of skill that was being used. She was also sure of predicting the weak point that was inside of him, once she knew which demonic art he had fully mastered. Both of them had decided to pay a visit to that man, while on the other hand, Minto was looking well, and thinking of Araji Kai being there to help them at their time of need. The determination of defeating the Heavenly King was met by his classmates, who had decided to help him because she was not alone, for sure, and they really did trust him. Those classmates were asking for a little more reliance upon them. In the end, all that Mito could do was laugh at his own silly tension, and to help him strengthen his team, Arachi had arrived with his delinquent subordinates, and he decided to be under the wings of the leader in order to defeat that stone bastard. The classmates were also happy to see their team being decided to mark the event, making his face go a little bit angry. One of them had decided to complete the task by taking the burden on their own shoulders, while Kanzaki was worried about not having any kind of a plan. Just then, Araji Kai had called her, while hitting himself under the stairs, and she was too excited to see him alive and standing completely still. He was basically asking her for some information about the kind of demonic art that Stone Gaia uses, so she decided to tell him the complete story to get the answer by himself. As it had completed, he understood that the man was using mud columns, and he was focusing on all of them. And then, she murmured a woman's name by his own mouth, which made the other girl get jealous, and she immediately caught his attention to it. He just got past, without answering any of her questions, and he told her to be a part of the group. It operated as her unseen shadow. The monstrous entity remained a threat inside Fort Alls, while the designated hero candidates were formulating their strategy. A surprising turn of events. Yumi, from the non-combatant faction, plunged herself into the battle. However, when questioned about her sudden resolve, she merely claimed she had to act, driven by a desire to aid those in peril. But her true motivation was the enigmatic Araji Kai. For one day, while she toiled away as a maid, a consequence of her non-combatant status, Araji Kai himself had appeared before her. He left her utterly breathless, alive and moving without restraint. After slaying the archbishop in cold blood, she was blushing, flustered at the thought of this man in her room. But Araji cut straight to the heart of the matter. He demanded she unleash her skill of divine protection, putting her water manipulation to its true use and joining the fight. The boy even made a desperate plea for her assistance, convincing her that she was one of the critical weapons, a key they would need to shatter that stone-hearted bastard. He assured her that the most fearsome figure in her mind had already been eliminated, so she could finally act on her own will. Another factor for her being pushed towards this trial was that she wasn't even a competent waitress, and with that blunt truth, she turned crimson with embarrassment. Yumi then questioned if he, too, would join the combatant party. Even after being branded a traitor to the kingdom, he flatly rejected the notion, telling the girl the same thing, that he would be a phantom in the shadows, moving her like a piece into play. Yumi was now fiercely determined to unleash her full power. After reviewing their battle plan, he altered it slightly and relayed the changes to Kansaki. She still harbored a seed of doubt deep within her heart. Araji Kai just trusted that their classmates would rise to the occasion. In any case, back on the fateful day of the assault, Minori reaffirmed the strategy one last time. They were marching forward with the conviction of certain victory. All the while, they were being observed by Mare as she calmly ate her breakfast, who had been informed directly by Araji Kai that he was the secret architect training his classmates for the sole purpose of vanquishing the demon. His only role was to provide them with crucial hints and ensure that they ultimately chose their own path to victory. At the moment of the grand assault, finally, as the destined hour arrived, the fiery, yellow-haired boy once more led the soldiers against Fort Alls, while monstrous beasts swarmed towards them, not learning from their previous folly, allowing them entry. The two opposing forces collided with catastrophic power, while the soldiers were consumed with forging a path forward, and in that critical moment, Their leader saw that they were being watched with a bright, mocking smile from the very top of the fort in the form of Stan Gaia. He looked as though he was eagerly anticipating their arrival. As soon as they breached the gate of the final boss, Arashur shattered it open with his explosive punch. But this time, the scene inside was vastly different, because Stan Gaia was already lying in wait, with his legion of mud golems barring their path. From a high vantage point, through a secret glimpse, Araji, Kai and Mare could be seen observing the clash from a safe distance. The true battle was now between those mud golems and the hero candidates. So the leader took the first step, drawing his gleaming sword, commanding his subordinates to commence the operation. Yumi unleashed her technique first, summoning a torrent of water and directing it with pinpoint accuracy toward the golems. With her water assault proving successful, the other candidates delivered their own barrage of attacks on those columns. Whether with a devastating explosion or a combined assault with other heroes, all of their intentions were to shatter the golems into dust. And they succeeded, but relying on the Heavenly King's power, those mud golems began to regenerate themselves once again. However, due to the water and the heavy, wet sand, their regeneration process failed spectacularly, and they crumbled to the ground. Stan Gaia had clearly not anticipated a water mage, so he pulled back some of the remaining golems. It was then revealed that such a strategy was the brainchild of the brilliant Mare, who had devised this specific formation in order to exhaust the mana of the man controlling those golems. Yumi then unleashed a massive tidal wave with her water manipulation, in a gambit to engulf every last one of the mud golems. As soon as her monumental task was complete, the other candidates executed their part of the grand play, and launched a ferocious head-on attack. Reading their strategy, Stan Gaia immediately unleashed another devastating spell, raising small, sharp boulders from the very ground and launching them like missiles at the candidates. It appeared they had anticipated even this desperate counterattack, as Hashimoto instantly used his telekinesis to halt the deadly projectiles. And before he could conjure another assault, he fell under the paralyzing domination of Kenzaki. The strategy was flowing perfectly, as Arashur immediately tried to land a punch. At the exact moment he was caught in the domination's grip, but he protected himself with a sudden mud wall against that explosion, leaving his body completely unharmed. The punch had failed to penetrate his formidable defenses, but this decoy had served its intended purpose perfectly, as Midas, like a snake, struck from behind the distracted man and delivered a swift slash, believing he had finally landed a fatal blow. However, the stone general was even able to deflect it with his heavy blade. So Hashimoto, using his powerful telekinesis, sent those captured boulders flying back toward the Heavenly King, in perfect combination with Yumi's powerful water lances. It was a truly magnificent and coordinated sight to behold, and as they rained down attacks from every conceivable angle, he commanded the stone wall to expand into a dome. Yumi immediately doused that wall with her water skill to make it wet, and created a treacherous pool of thick, wet mud. Using that small pool as an opening, everyone assaulted him simultaneously from every side. He was finally damaged by a multitude of attacks at once, including explosions, lightning-fast rushes, crushing telekinesis, and piercing water lances. At long last, his impenetrable defense was shattered, so he made the desperate choice to convert all of his defensive mana into a final, furious offensive. It seemed the strategist seized this very moment of chaos, and as he activated his weak point identification skill, he launched a single knife right at the Heavenly King's head. It pierced his skull, creating a gruesome fountain of blood. With that single fatal attack, the powerful and imposing body of the Heavenly King collapsed to the ground. This caused the hero candidates to erupt in celebration, truly believing that they had finally achieved victory. Even though the world would believe it was Midu and Arashur, the true masterminds were already aware it was not their doing. Arashur found the discarded knife next to the dead man's body, and he was furious to learn the true victor was none other than Araji Kai. From their hidden perch in the ceiling, Mare was pleased with the plan's success and Yumi's pivotal help, yet she knew that, in the final moments, when the Heavenly King unleashed the full extent of his mana, their carefully crafted plan looked like a child's game, forcing Araji Kai's hand to intervene directly. Hashimoto urged their leader to simply bask in the victory, to enjoy the triumph they had earned, and pushed him into the celebrating huddle, so that he could finally accept the well-deserved praises from every side. After such a long and arduous struggle, their leader smiled, while the hot-headed delinquent leader was still seething with rage. The delinquent was then joined by his own loyal group to make him smile. However, he remained stubbornly true to his fiery character. One of his members correctly read the mood and had seen the final attack. However, he praised the frontliners for pushing the fearsome Heavenly King to the edge, while that filthy outcast just stole the final glorious move. Later, Midas dramatically sliced off Stan Gaia's head to mark his victory, a clear signal to the other remaining monsters. And amidst the soldiers, they celebrated the final, hard-won battle. Henrik was also overjoyed that they had finally done it, and from that historic day forward, that fortress was going to be under the complete command of the nation. Even though the monsters still held superior numbers against the soldiers, they immediately accepted defeat, because once their leader was slain, they could no longer mount any proper resistance. It was a clear demonstration of the reason why no one retaliated. After the decisive defeat of Weber in that city, Araji Kai had intervened in the battle before, because he couldn't bear to watch his classmates be slaughtered by the overwhelming killing intent of the Heavenly King. It seemed he was unknowingly acting as their guardian, being fiercely overprotective during this critical time. Mare noticed that Yumi wasn't calling him by his name anymore, and as she was granted his unspoken permission, her face flushed a deep red. Two of the Heavenly Kings were finally defeated, but they still needed to remain vigilant, as Isabel, another far more powerful being, was already on the move. This harrowing journey was destined to be a long one for sure. On the other side of this epic story, a woman with feline ears was captured by someone who was deeply impressed with the strength she possessed in herself. He commanded one of his monstrous underlings to read the message. The capture of the princess and the defeat of the Beastman nation is well underway. An entire week had passed since the great subjugation battle, and the recent glorious news had spread throughout the nation via newspapers. This had dramatically increased the morale of the knights. The hero candidate's fame had also skyrocketed immensely, to the point that they were summoned by the king himself, who expressed his deep gratitude and awarded them the title of lord as a knight. Inside the royal palace, once the grand ceremony was finally complete, those candidates were seated with the highest officials at a grand table. And as Midou showed clear signs of sheer exhaustion, he was mockingly marked by Amelia as getting old. Being from another world entirely, he was not well versed in the etiquette of receiving prestigious awards and showing proper deference to the royal bloodline. Amelia then informed him about his future noble duties, which were set to arrive as a newly appointed noble. She told him that since the entire nation was controlled by the church, his new title was also approved directly by the Pope. In short, from this day forward, he was to become the 11th Corps' new captain, also known as the Legendary Heroes Corps, commanding all hero candidates. He had a few burning questions in his mind, but Henrik, before explaining everything to him, stated that he was far too exhausted to comprehend the affairs of state. The news of him becoming the captain had already reached Araji Kai from the mouth of none other than Kenzaki, and he immediately understood that the kingdom was doing this to paint a very specific picture in front of the public, that even the revered hero candidates were ultimately controlled by the church, even though it appeared that the heroes were acting on their own volition in a desperate bid to return to their distant homeland. In reality, all of them were acting just like puppets on the direct command of the church to fulfill their grand task. Kenzaki finally inquired about the mysterious girl standing adjacent to Araji Kai, and she came to know that she was a half-elf and a powerful spellcaster. She further introduced herself merely as a companion on his perilous journey, and called him casually by his first name. The tension was becoming even more palpable between the two old friends. A light-hearted banter between all three of them continued on for a while, and Kenzaki directly laid out her intentions to act as his shadow throughout all of the upcoming battles, where she would serve as his personal messenger. Kenzaki showed a deep emotional desire to travel alongside him. However, his heart's deepest demands were quickly shot down, as she was the only connection between him and the other candidates. Thus, she was a crucial bond that was required for him to move freely. Even though the others were completely fed up with him, Midu always looked upon his face with the highest regard, and this was a fact also believed by Araji Kai. He was planning to make everyone as strong as he possibly could, because he had already witnessed the terrifying strength possessed by the highest level demons of the realm. He even revealed his triumph over one of the other heavenly kings, which had been an incredibly close call. Kanzaki was thoroughly impressed that both of them took down such a monumental task, a feat which took all of the hero candidates together to complete. She was feeling a bit insignificant compared to the immense power possessed by the girl, and so, Araji Kai reminded her of Isabel's chilling words, telling her that there were still others waiting behind, who were even more powerful than what they had just barely faced. Simply asking Kanzaki to watch her surroundings and remain in contact regularly. He moved away while giving a final instruction to inform Midu that Araji Kai was working his own way to defeat the Demon King. Both of them then departed from the place. Kanzaki renewed her determination to become even stronger. After their victory against one of the heavenly kings, that group had decided to launch a large-scale invasion, and using the momentum they had created, fueled by high motivation, they were able to successfully push back the front lines. With that, they managed to conquer most of the forts surrounding Mount Uragano, and the entire city was finally liberated. Such an astonishing result was only achievable because Weber, who was the custodian of all enemy logistics, was also defeated. On one fine day when a celebratory party was underway, and Nagase was drinking himself into a stupor with beer, even after being just a 15-year-old kid, he was sure that drinking wasn't denied in this particular nation. Hashimoto, on the other hand, playfully stole his beer glass, while the others just laughed at such a childish display. Even Erasure was soaking himself completely in drinks, and it seemed like everyone else was discussing how fragile the state of command for the demons truly was, and the same feeling was in Midu's head. All of their high expectations of a trap were turned down, while Nagase believed that the demon armies were just a large group of idiots, and she still refused to believe Araji Kai was the mastermind behind it all. Kanzaki quickly defended him from those slanderous words, and the others were stunned with such secret information being revealed. Kanzaki told them the complete, unbelievable truth about him, defeating another one of the heavenly kings all by himself. And with that shocking information, everyone started to believe that he was the real monster, possessing such incredible strength, while Nagase was still not prepared to believe something like that was true. Erasure, on the other hand, was keenly aware of what truly happened in the battle with Stangaya, so he just kept digging into his food without saying a word. Hashimoto and Nagase were playfully bickering like sisters over that topic, while Araji Kai was moving deep into the western territory of the city, deep inside the demonic kingdom's treacherous territory. On his path, he was facing furious monsters at every turn, and as some high-level goblins attempted to ambush him, he used his mud manipulation through his genius-level intellect, and ended their lives instantly using a powerful thunder shock. However, another one of them turned out to be far more majestic, and it tried to deliver a bold, crushing attack on his head, only to meet its swift demise against the salamander spirit, which burned it completely to ashes. His diagnostic magic was not performing well at the moment, and even though the skill was rare, with the thunder element he currently possessed, he needed to operate in a much faster manner and a more powerful one. He could have done it easily if he had some divine protection for magic, and so the only way he could possibly mature was by using it, with a crystal clear image of the casting. That is, a clear image of the phenomenon in which he wanted his magic to act. He absorbed all the knowledge from that blabbering mouth, and revealed his reason for seeking this powerful new ability, to defeat the Demon King which was making him learn magic. He was pleased with his new disciple being by his side for the training, and just at that moment, he felt a strange and different kind of sensation running through his head. As he rose, he found himself completely surrounded by a number of goblins, quite double or even triple in their small sizes. As it was further revealed, it turned out to be a monster stampede, with countless other monsters joining in the battle against just the two of them. Araji Kai immediately unleashed his thunder shock against all of them, and even though it had a slight impact, it was not powerful enough to take down all the goblins at once. His raw firepower was still desperately lacking, and relying on That moment, one of the goblins tried to ambush him from behind, making him dodge and quickly leap up to a tree. He immediately went on the move, and with his continuous, fluid movement, he made all of the monsters completely confused, and then attacked them with throwing knives aimed at their weak points. It was a simple, yet effective method for him, and he was thinking of mastering his new magic skill. To have in the meantime, another monster tried to ambush him again from behind, just to be swiftly decapitated by the man in midair with a single slice. He immediately infused his entire body with potent mana, and started slicing the other monsters without any threat to his own body. During all of that chaotic time, he was maintaining a continuous, safe distance while traveling on the trees, and as one of the massive orcs noticed his tactic, he broke that trunk. At the moment Araji-kai fell to the ground, he noticed that the sheer number of monsters he was facing was quite tremendous at this point in time. Even the powerful boss monster was also among them. On the other hand, Mare was also using her salamander spirit to burn down those monsters. However, she was a little frustrated with the tremendous number of them still coming in. Both of them quickly decided to head out of that dangerous place. However, the moment Araji-kai moved, he had already sliced through every single one of them, including the boss. Both of them started running for their lives, and Mare told him in between their escape that high-level monsters could easily control the lower-level ones, making that entire place only suitable for demons. Soon, both of them reached a perilous dead end. As they looked downwards, they found that the place was truly the territory of the vast demonic kingdom, truly troublesome. As one long week passed by, even the powerful holy knights decided to intervene in the demonic kingdom, and they arrived to face the stampede by themselves. However, this time it was completely different from what they had ever faced before. Since their rankings were quite higher, the regular soldiers were becoming sacrificial bait, while hero candidates and knights were taking down their numbers. All of them quickly realized that, since those people were being attacked by all different kinds of monsters, the clear and terrifying identification was that all of them were being controlled by a high-ranking demon. It turned out to be exactly the same, as we could soon see. A black lady with white hair and two sharp horns holding wine, taking command, introduced to be the deadly Elsa. Her cunning plan was to make them exhaust themselves, then start the counterattack. As soon as this was noticed by their brave leader, he called upon his men to retreat, and so everyone immediately followed. The monsters had turned out to be victorious, leaving the soldiers' bodies littered on the ground, and each of them praised Elsa for being such a cunning lady. The battle against the powerful Beastman nation was already complete. So it was going to be the humans' chance next. And by this time, it looked like the monsters were going to be more cautious. Among any other opposing species, that complete, chilling conversation was being overheard by Araji-kai and Mare, and reading the grave situation, Araji-kai asked for more explanation about this very same threat. As it turns to the very next day, we could see the fallen soldiers being monitored by the recovery team, while the higher-ups were having a serious meeting in the chamber alone. They gave the complete news of their absolutely miserable defeat, and then desperately asked for suggestions on overcoming that situation. Everyone present was now aware that the major issue was how to counter the seemingly endless swarm of demons, while Henrik understood that even the demons were now forming strategies, and were no longer taking humans that lightly, the way they had been taking them just before. There truly was a cunning lady taking command from deep behind the lines. Others also feared that there was a massive number of monsters inside the forest. In order to possibly defeat them, they wanted to somehow lure those monsters out of the forest, but there was no way that the leader commanding those monsters would ever let that happen. So the higher-ups decided to regroup their forces to lower the immense casualties they had faced in liberating the city. In any way, it was certain that they could not just use morale and martial strength to take down all of those monsters. They would have to face them inside that treacherous forest. Midu was at a complete loss for words, so Hashimoto decisively interrupted, and she confirmed their true intentions of defeating the great demon king, and gave them a bold suggestion of increasing their army in male regards. It was going to be difficult, as it would only slow down the process, because they could not receive divine protection from anyone, like the normal, regular soldiers. Midu immediately interrupted to increase the number of their elite forces. But the glaring problem was, they would not be able to find a single one who could properly lead the front lines in that entire nation. For sure, intensive training was the only way out of this dilemma. And even though it was incredibly time-consuming, it was the finest one. Henrik agreed at once, and finally, after such a long time, Midu found the gap of understanding that the hero candidate's primary role and the kingdom's ultimate goal were totally different. Even though both of them wanted to defeat the powerful demon king, both of them had vastly different reasons for trying to solve their own separate problems so that they could each maintain their own status. And seeing him deep in thought, Henrik confirmed with Midu. Without any hesitation, he said that, by the way, they were discussing it, it would take a great number of years. Amelia confirmed the daunting count to be at least 2 years, in order to properly train them into elite-level soldiers. Reading the restlessness on his face, Henrik interrupted to tell the boy that, in order to do it quickly, they would need to be extremely patient while the others were finding it required to succeed in liberating the entire nation, and thanking the hero candidates for such a grand pleasure. Even though the candidates desperately wanted to head back home, as soon as they possibly could, the decision was final, that it would take 2 more long years. When they moved out, Henrik read the deep disappointment on the leader's face, so he tried to make him clearly understand that such a difficult decision was for the greater cause. On both sides, Henrik wanted to tell him that the more he would hurry, the more his chances to die would certainly increase, and he himself believed that there was still significant room for their development, so they should patiently take their time for careful preparation. Hashimoto strongly agreed with this saying, asking him to remember the time when Henrik came out to rescue them, when they had moved forward without any proper, careful planning. Henrik believed that their enemies were much stronger than the Heavenly King, and in all reality, with the strength that the hero candidates possessed at that moment, it was absolutely nothing in front of them. Midu's face finally changed its expression, and with the fierce intention of not letting his friends die, he informed them about the grim reality of it, and the right choice was only to take their time, to build up both their body and their strength, and then, after finally defeating the Demon King, they could reach back home. However, the moment that dreaded message reached the other hero candidates, they were all utterly shocked, and the only true answer for them was heading back to their home, after 2 agonizing years. Midu tried his absolute best to make them understand the real way out, and somehow, Erasure did not appreciate such a bad joke being played right on his face. Midu understood his frustrated words, but he wanted to say that they need to move on carefully by themselves, in order to have a chance at defeating the Demon King. Hirashi's steadfast belief was that those guys were really not necessary, and for the very first time in this entire epic saga, we could see Midu getting truly angry at such a brazen declaration. He changed the point of thought for everyone in the line, that they need to defeat just the Demon King, not the entire demon army. However, Midu believed that such a narrow victory would only come at the high cost of someone's life, and he was not willing to take that chance. There was an immediate and violent clash between both of the leaders, that is, the delinquent leader and the group's real leader, and as everyone expected, the delinquent lost his calmness first, and tried to attack him with a powerful explosion. So Midu also took out his sword to act as a defensive shield move, and defended himself completely against that powerful explosion. Such a thing had absolutely no impact on his body, so Midu once again asked Erasure to train for the meantime before heading out further. Just appearing out of nowhere, before they could head any further, both of them were suddenly tied in magical chains, and it turned out that Kenzaki was the one using her domination power on both of the clashing leaders. Erasure was just extremely annoyed with that act and broke through the domination, and there was a massive, unbridgeable level of difference between the core thinking of both of the group's leaders. However, most of the agreement was with Midu's thoughtful process. Numerous classmates immediately supported Midu's thought, and there turns out one of the culprits in the form of Carrie, who instantly took the side of Erasure, because she wanted to get back to her home as soon as she possibly could. She was remembering the frail condition of her ailing mother, and never wanted to leave her behind all alone. There were a few other candidates who also agreed with Erasure, because there was someone special waiting at home for them, which is why they were so private in their reach back over their own precious lives. Without any second thought, none of them were ready to make them wait. On the other side of the high wall, for more than 2 long and agonizing years. It also turned out that one of them, the delinquent, also took to their side. And Akira believed that being on the side of the truly brave, rather than being on the side of the absolute coward, was better. Midu was left in complete awe while Erasure believed in moving on his own way, taking the sides of the vast majority of classmates behind him. All who supported his cause moved out, with no one left behind him, who decided to be the sole messenger between both the parties. Kanzaki was not able to think of a proper way out from it, and she believed in the righteous sides of Erasure, due to her own grandfather's deteriorating condition. At night, Arashi's rebellious group was already planning their attack, with powerful horses and all their ammunition. But before they could possibly move, they heard the familiar voice of Araji Kai approaching them, raising their already high temperature to a certain peak. Erasure, being pissed at the very reason for his arrival, and the others were also not looking happy at all, with his face being strangely convenient. They asked both of them not to create any kind of scene, while Araji Kai instantly asked him to lend his considerable strength. At once, as seen in the shocking flashback, it was visible that Araji Kai was viewing the complete and violent clash between the hero candidates, and for the very first time, he was finding both of their logic to be suitable at the moment. One way was just far too active, while on the other side, that is the careful approach from the kingdom, was much too passive. Arashi's reckless approach was far riskier, and there were only 3 ways of getting out of such a dilemma, where the very first one stands, of changing the archaic way of thinking of the higher-ups, at the high cost of their own personal exile. Midu was not going to agree with that, so the second one was using clever guerrilla tactics, instead of foolishly fighting them head-on, as the vast demonic kingdom was not at all unified, and they could use that very reason to ignite a bloody civil war. But in this particular case, Erasure was not that capable. The third and final way was to finally move on. The critical information they had received in the past battle, which would make the entire kingdom army move at once. Turning back to the tense present, we could see a bright bonfire burning with a round table conference held, and Araji Kai was telling them about the princess of the feline Beastman nation. Actually, she was the noble princess who was captured by the demonic army. In the middle of the vital information, every single candidate was having a different kind of thought all along, while Erasure was not able to understand why they were even discussing and bringing up the strange topic of a beastman. There was a powerful country in the southern territory which was a neutral one, having no official stands on either demons or humans. His master plan was to take much-needed help from them, because they had quite a bit stronger soldiers, possessing much higher physical abilities, and were the very ones who had stopped the invasion multiple times. Even though they were incredibly strong, their strength was still not enough to defeat the Demon King, and the only way possibly out was joining hands together with them. In the strategic eyes of Araji Kai at that very moment, they needed to rescue her and use her as a powerful bargaining chip. While Araji Kai had already gained the information of the supply route, it was going to be Arashi's group, while Araji Kai will act in the shadows. Another classmate was much more deeply worried if the Holy Kingdom was not shaking hands with the mighty Federation, and the only clear answer was the humans' past behavior towards them, who had suppressed and acted cruelly, mainly against them. The beastmen were also hating humans due to their arrogant nature, so it was always going to be extremely difficult for them to deal with, and that was the very reason they were trying to use a bargaining chip in the powerful form of the captured princess. The strategy looked brilliant, and while not a single soul dared to object, one person was seething with rage at Araji Kai. She detested him acting so high and mighty, sticking his nose into every single discussion. Erasure was ready to ignite a battle right then and there, and for that reason, he was reminded by his subordinate to consider the other lives at stake, and so, with absolutely no other choice, he reluctantly decided to follow the proposed plan. Their entire combined force embarked on a southern expedition, with the goal of intercepting the group that was heading away from the south, while transporting the captured princess. Their destination was the very heart of the forest, a treacherous land with no established roads due to the absence of trade routes. They could easily pinpoint their location by tracking the marks of their movement. The question remained whether they could be discovered before the ambush. However, there was no need for worry, because Araji Kai had found the path where they were headed, a place where no such threat would exist. The wagons could also be kept safe, utilizing the unique skills of one of their classmates, a girl who possessed a dimensional space ability. Tomoko was simply overjoyed with such high praise for her talent. It was then revealed that Araji Kai had been secretly infiltrating and gathering intel on the demonic territory. All this time while simultaneously taking down countless monsters. The ultimate result of all their efforts came out to be the same. They simply needed to defeat the all-powerful Demon King in order to carve their path back to their own world. All of them were talking and taking the situation quite leisurely, so Erasure berated every one of them and commanded them to increase the pace of their movement. As the darkness of night fell, they were seen walking on foot, and soon they were completely surrounded by monsters in the form of vicious gray wolves. All of the beasts tried to attack them at once. The first kill was claimed by the steel-bodied kid, with a powerful punch directly into a wolf's gut. Supporting orders immediately rang out from the leaders, and they began taking down the monstrous pack with their incredible skills and divine protections. The one who possessed the non-combatant skill, she also decided to test her unique ability on one of them, and then blasted it away with the help of a fiery explosion, leaving it deep-fried and crashing onto the ground. Araji Kai was secretly relieved with such a magnificent show of power, and in that brief moment all of them had left, a single wolf unattended, which breached their defenses to try and ambush Araji from behind. Suddenly, Mare intervened and incinerated that wolf, using the incredible power of her salamander spirit, protecting the boy from any potential damage. Everyone was thoroughly impressed, however. Arachi was just furious with such an intervention and rudely called her a woman of Araji. She flustered, and a dead, tense moment created a wave of tension with the others, who started praising the girl for her immense firepower. Araji Kai felt a pang of happiness that she had finally found some real friends, as such an experience was also a required part of her growth. They finally reached their intended destination, and upon finding the place, they decided to make it their temporary hideout. Araji Kai activated his powerful sight skill to scout out the nearby cave, and informed all of them about the presence of 3 low-rank demons and 15 mid-rank demons, with the count increasing inside the wagon. Among all of the demons, there was a high-ranking one leading them from the very front, who was introduced to be Zaganda. Even though he was not as strong as a heavenly king, he was more than strong enough to challenge the hero candidates. Erasure boldly decided to take on that man all by himself. So, Araji Kai revealed the master plan in front of everyone. First, Erasure would act as a decoy to draw their attention, and the others would attack the demons in 3-man squads. The support staff will provide assistance, and Ozaki will protect the wounded. Mare was given the crucial role of protecting the rear, and Erasure will deal with the higher-ranked demons personally. Araji Kai is going to sneak in from behind to evacuate the princess, and the rest of the team will act according to the situation. The entire fight was now left to the mighty Erasure. Seeing his immense confidence in such a bold declaration shocked the others. His loyal delinquent friend tried to protect him with orders from the man, but he simply smacked both of them away, telling everyone that they were all going to follow the exact same plan. Back at the demon convoy, the demons were already exhausted from their continuous walk, and were begging for a little bit of rest, while Zaganda flatly denied their request. This was to be expected because he himself was also feeling quite tired, so he found another way out by checking the condition of their prisoner, telling them to move forward with their guard held high. While doing so, he immediately headed inside the main wagon and found the captured princess, sitting helplessly, and introduced her to be the beautiful Sina. He sat down like a creepy uncle, and told her about being present in the northernmost location, and that she would soon be relieved after the Beast Federation agrees on their terms. Sina was absolutely certain that they were not going to comply, until they successfully handed her over to them, and she further called them incredibly stupid, to think that they could possibly break down the morale of the Beastmen with such a little, insignificant capture. Zagana got furious, and his vile perverseness erupted from his dark heart. So for his first disgusting step, he snatched away the young lady's cover, and started licking his face in anticipation of having some fun. But destiny had something else planned for him. His vile intentions were stopped in the middle of his act by a bright, fiery explosion just outside the wagon. When he turned around in shock, he received information that they were being attacked by the humans. Arashur was playing his role in a fine manner as the perfect bait, and Zaganda immediately ordered his men to launch a counterattack. In any case, those lowly grunts were not enough to face the mighty hero candidates, and seeing themselves rapidly losing, he was quite stressed. Arashur seized the moment and approached the man, while he himself cast his powerful spear out of his hand right there. A bit of taunting banter between both of them began, with one possessing devastating explosion power, and the other having a powerful spear thrust in his strong hand. As their powerful attacks finally collided, Zangarda mocked Arashur for his weak firepower and pushed him away. The hero candidate realized the true toughness of his opponent, and decided on a further course of action for his plan, realizing that he only had 7 charges left. With such powerful explosions, he knew he needed to keep a close count, because any decrease would not let him keep his optimal space with the enemy, and so he decided to aim directly for the heart after creating a particular gap. As his final, decisive attack, Zangara was stunned to see such a man possessing intense divine force, and he further decided to be extremely cautious. He understood that they were aiming at rescuing the princess, so he had heavily guarded the wagon, with a lot more soldiers than any other place around him. He decided to make the decisive move to defeat the leader, and so he rushed forward with his terrifying spear of flash, thrusting against the man at an incredibly intense speed, making Arachi dodge his attack by a mere second. At that very moment, the man was standing on the explosive landmines cast by Arachi, and as soon as he activated them, he started burning from the inside out. The horse was not able to keep up with those, and due to the massive explosion, a thick smoke screen was created, completely blocking his vision. So Arashur passed by from behind and ambushed him with another explosion. However, it was of absolutely no use, as the high-ranked demon noticed it and countered with a wild, powerful thrust, making Arashur fall hard on his own back with intense, crushing impact. The others were pretty concerned, and even though the hit hurt, it was not nearly enough to take down the determined man, and such a matter was even more concerning for the high-level demon. He was relieved that he could just counter his unique fighting style by creating a sufficient amount of space between both of them, as his explosion would not work if it was not physically touching something. Zanghador once again started using the wild, powerful thrust, while Arashur continuously dodged his attacks, and he was maintaining the distance at a continuous, steady level. The high-ranked demon had a smug laugh on his face, but it was not the right one, because as soon as Arashur got the chance, he raised his hand and attacked the man with a powerful cannon fire, stunning him even more at that very moment. He then increased the power to the maximum, and one final explosion was pinpointed directly to the heart of the high demon, and as the thick smoke finally cleared, he fell hard on the floor without any movement. It was then revealed that Arashur had gained a new skill of divine protection, in the form of the devastating cannon fire. The hero candidates were overjoyed. However, the remaining demons were restless, and as soon as their formation was broken, the support staff took their chance to take down the remaining monsters at once. Araji Kai was moving exactly as per the plan, and reached the wagon to find the princess sitting helplessly inside. She was stunned to see a human attempting to help her. Araji Kai immediately took out his sharp knife and relieved her from her restrictive handcuffs, while bluntly telling her that these humans wanted to use her for their own personal gain. He was not going to lie to her in any case, and that gave the reason for the princess to use her partial beastification and try to attack Araji Kai as he had fully expected her to. Araji Kai dodged her attack completely and went on his guard, while facing the girl and praising the impressive ability of the beastmen. All of a sudden, he used his powerful thunder shock and made her fall onto the ground, with that magic starting to resist her as he caught her hand. That attack was solely meant to disable the enemy, and a burning question was now on the mind of the girl. How could a mere human be that overwhelmingly strong? She was now ready to be with the humans who would obey their orders. Well, on the other hand, there was only one monster left remaining, to be taken down by the victorious hero candidates. As the very final one was left, Shinami used her powerful stem skill to raise him upside down against a tree, and Arashur told that demon to deliver a chilling message to his king, that he was going to be killed with his head chopped off cleanly. All of them then once again raised a bonfire and started enjoying the stolen food from the wagons, while acting exactly like a group of bandits. Sina was also served with her own generous portion of food, but she was not eating it, as she didn't find it right to be treated in such a good manner by her captors. Araji Kai was harsh again with his words, just ordering her to eat, and she did the same without protest. The moment she tasted the food, she found it to be quite delicious, and the other girls liked the happy expression on her face. Mare, on the other hand, inquired about the way she was ultimately captured, and she told the story that she fell short against the Demon King's army while she was out hunting. Stunningly, those demons were quite deep inside the Federation's territory, because they were secretly planning to invade it, and the only terrible truth behind it was that they wanted to completely control the entire world. Sina directly asked the question about their true intentions, and Araji Kai, being completely blunt, revealed that she needed to act as their valuable bargaining chip because they wanted the help of the Federation to defeat the Demon King. He even revealed the true reason for such a monumental task, and so she finally understood that all of them were the candidates who were summoned from another distant world. The princess gave her solemn assurance to help them because they rescued her, and she also desperately wanted to push away the demons from the Federation. It was then when she revealed a shocking detail at her own hands test, that there was a spy lurking in the high ranking of the Federation. As soon as their perilous task was completed, they reached back to the main city. While Mito was sharpening his swordsmanship skills, Nagase raged to tell them about the triumphant return of Araki's party, and on the other hand, all of them were under the command of the soldiers to run away, and to come back with calm and composed faces. Erasure just asked them to summon Amelia for an important discussion. While the soldiers were continuously stuck on making them all prisoners, there was absolutely no way that those mere men could do such a task of defeating the mighty hero candidates. And so, in order to protect them, Kenzaki used her domination power to stop the soldiers in their tracks. While they were stunned, they wondered if she was also betraying the kingdom. Narumi calmed them all down for a discussion, and all of them reluctantly agreed, pissing off Erasure due to his true, impulsive character. All of them were going to discuss the important matters in a calm, neutral place, and so they were moved inside the main conference room to have their discussion. This time, Erasure was between them with his legs arrogantly folded over the table. The higher officers did not like such a disrespectful attitude, but Erasure was in no mood whatsoever to change that. For their own sakes, he decided to pay a little bit of respect and lowered his leg, while calling in Tsunami along with the princess of the Beastmen, the revered Sina. Her introduction was properly given to the table as being the captured princess, while everyone at the table was completely stunned by it. She even confirmed it while telling them that they were the very ones who had rescued her from the demons while she was being forcibly moved to the demonic territory. Erasure then presented a powerful offer for them to bargain with for the crucial cooperation of the Federation for their army, because they are not going to wait for 2 long years. Understanding the gravity of the situation, she was ready to discuss the matter with the higher-ups. With the princess being securely in their hand, there was no possible way that the nation was going to let go of half of their hero candidates, with Erasure being the main central character, holding such immense and terrifying power in his hands. The demand was crystal clear, that they were all going to get on the move to the demonic territory as soon as they got their hands on the Federation's army. Even though it was not a bad deal at all, the kingdom was also ready to work with it. Sina too had a personal request of luring out the demons inside the Federation in return for their help, and Midu gave her the solemn assurance on the same. Henrik was sharp with his probing questions, however Erasure cleverly dodged them, telling them that such vital information was revealed after interrogating the demons they had previously caught. As a week finally passed, the kingdom was finally sending an official letter to the Federation for a formal discussion, and it was a moment of pure joy for the hero candidates. For chosen people were heading for the important task, including Midel, Nagase, Kansaki, and of course Narumi. Everyone was having their own trade for the coming departure, and the leader of the delegation was going to be the trustworthy Henrik. They were heading out in total with a group of 30 people. Erasure was taking a calm back seat because he was not good at delicate negotiations, and Hashimoto was now going to act as the sub-squad leader in the temporary absence of the main leader. Araji Kai was also heading into the Federation's territory, but not with the main convoy for sure. As the day of their departure finally arrived, the leader decided to lead the way along with the chosen hero candidates, and they were going to travel for a little bit, with a surprising member joining them, Nagase. She was there to keep a close check on Arumi and the powerful Mito from acting too recklessly. Nagase was aware that Araji Kai was also coming, and she was keenly aware of Henrik. As was to be expected, both of them were heading on their own way while hiding in the bushes, telling them because he had no more confidence in the provided maps. The more they walked, the more suspicious Kamzaki was acting. So Henrik finally asked her the reason behind her strange behavior. She acted cutely, pretending to be afraid of the monsters, and Henrik somehow did not like such a childish attitude. He turned to Mito's strange distance with the arrival of Arachi, and there was still a lingering question in his head about how they possibly got the information of the princess's abduction. It's just because everything happened so fast that a dumb head like Erasure could not possibly pull off such a thing all by himself. In short, he had the strong concern that someone was moving in the shadows and gathering the crucial information. With a sudden, telling change in the expression of Mito, he got his answer, and Arumi was worried because he was aware that the culprit from inside the kingdom was acting in that very manner. He would be truly bound to receive severe punishment if he was caught. At this time, Nagase came to the rescue. However, it looked like Henrik was already keenly aware that the one acting behind the shadows was none other than the infamous Araji Kai, or the so-called Saint Killer. Such shocking information was confirmed by the leader. However, Henrik was not going to give him a punishment for his crimes, and he himself was thankful for the death of that wicked woman. He even had concerns that the mysterious man was watching them, with the strange behavior of Kansaki as proof, and as they moved behind to confirm the very same thing, she was not left with any kind of plausible answer, and her face turned pale. And Rajikai realized that everything had finally been revealed, so he himself came out from his hiding spot in the bushes, and the Beastman even told him that he was the one who had rescued her. Arajikai was impressed with the guy for reaching the right conclusion with such small scraps of information, and Henrik even confirmed if he was the man who had killed Wimber. There was a lot of new information being exchanged, and the most pissed off among all of them turned out to be Nagase. She was not calming herself down in the slightest, even after the interference, and continuously called him a disgusting traitor, demanding that he say something in his defense. Arajikai acted even more calmly than before, making her raise her own inner temperature to its boiling point, and she cast a powerful fire spell right at his face and tried to attack him. Maya too went on her guard in an instant, and before Kansaki could use her powerful domination magic, the fire collided directly with Arajikai, stunning everyone with the resulting immense cloud of smoke. As the thick smoke finally cleared, Arajikai had somehow dodged it and threw Nagase onto the floor with a powerful beam, making her cast even more fireballs completely out of the blue. Arajikai too used his thunder magic to completely immobilize her spell, and made her fall hard onto the ground with absolutely no movement. Nagase was stunned, and she even had to face harsh criticism from the man for not working properly on strengthening her own body. Mito realized that Arajikai had grown significantly stronger right now, while Nagase was firm in her decision of not accepting the truth. She was getting furious once again, so Kansaki used her domination magic to make her stand completely still. As the night fell, all of them settled down with their camp, and made Henrik understand why they were forced to kill the wicked lady, who was forcing them to do terrible tasks which were not meant for them. There were now two halves of the hero candidates, one believing that he had done the absolute right thing, while the other believing that he was not so good on completing the task. Nagase was one of the firm members of the other group, never ever ready to believe that he did it for the sake of his classmates. She had another dark doubt that he was not ready to return to their home, while keeping a cute lady constantly by his side, which flustered even the stoic mayor. After forming such deep connections with each other, Mito came to the discussion to ask for direct help from Arajikai. He was even not minded by the pragmatic Henrik, who was ready to fabricate the official reports for the same reason. Nagasaki somehow agreed to play along in their little game, and even Arajikai agreed, as all of their final goals were ultimately the same. Later that night, Araji Kai had a lingering doubt about Henrik and his true loyalty, because even if someone is completely trusted, no one could be trusted with absolutely everything. Mito had his own personal reasons for telling the entire truth, and showed Araji Kai that it was the only method chosen by the leader and there was no way out of it after that. The delegation kept walking for many long days, and when they were about to finally reach the place, Anna suggested that they visit the city nearest to the border. At that very moment, their convoy was suddenly attacked, and as the scene cleared, we could see them totally surrounded by hostile beastmen, trying to take complete command over them. The leader of the group called for more of her armed subordinates, asking their reasons for the visit, and they were now completely surrounded. Mito somehow managed to calm all of them down, telling them of their proposed alliance with the Federation. While the beastmen were not ready to have something like that with the ones who had treated them so badly in the past, Sina finally revealed herself to their fearsome leader, and as she popped out from inside the wagon, she informed them that she was rescued by these very humans. They were now ready to return her to her people. However, it looked like the woman named Rune was in no mood to listen to their conversation, and so Henrik was forced to give the command to engage them in battle, with no intention to kill any of them. Sina herself gave some insight about her group's abilities, asking Araji Kai to incapacitate her without killing her, and he delegated that important task to the powerful Meidu. While Meidu happily agreed to do it for him, he quickly conquered the event and started taking down those individuals with his bare-hand combat skills and his incredible instant movement. None of them were able to cope with that, and Kenzaki was the one going to handle the rear archer with her powerful domination skills, and she was successful in doing it. The others jumped down from the trees, and Mare called upon the Sylph spirit to push them all away with her powerful magic. Nagase, on the other hand, refrained from fighting and getting directly involved in the battle, as her powerful flames could be really dangerous due to her lack of fine control. Rune realized that she was going to lose this fight, but even so, she did not yield to the calm words Mito presented, and tried to attack him with her sharp sword, only to get caught by two of his fingers and left with her hands shivering. Sina came forward, asking her to please listen to the humans, and as the entire story was completed, all the beasts bent down on their knees to sincerely apologize for whatever they had just done. She continuously and profusely apologized, even after getting appreciation from the leader and the mysterious Araji Kai, who directly suggested the formation of a powerful alliance between both of their nations. Further, he showed his keen interest in meeting with the higher-ups for the same reason. Scene agreed to it, and they decided to take her back to the capital city. And there was an emotional reunion between the two of the old friends. After that, the complete delegation was treated with the proper respect they deserved, and they were headed to meet the chief of the parliament, which was an ancient organization that leads the entire country. It was a huge, magnificent building, even more attractive than the real parliament, stunning even the hero candidates with its impressive size. They could not move any further from that specific location, as they needed the express permission of the councils of the parliament. So, Mito decided to take the difficult task into his own capable hands. There were some of the highest level people walking freely in the capital city, and they somehow did not look happy at all with the arrival of the humans at their place. Their chatter was continuously going on, and Araji Kai felt that rather than pure hate, a strange feeling of fear was emerging from those beastmen. Rune found it to be a natural reaction to their presence, while Henrik believed that they were going to be hated by the chief, whom they were about to meet in person. Soon, the leader of the Federation finally came out, having brown hair and a majestic robe on his powerful body, inquiring about his beloved daughter. He was too glad to see that she was really safe and fine. That powerful man reconfirmed after their emotional meeting if a human had saved her, and she replied positively to it with greater, heartfelt gratitude. He introduced himself as the Great Alto, Sina's father, and sincerely thanked them for saving her precious life. Hamrick also gave a proper, formal introduction, and then the important discussion moved to the formal table in the parliament, with the beastmen sitting on one side and the humans on the other. Iraji Kai then conveyed their formal proposal, asking them to kindly accept it, and Alto agreed immediately because they had saved his beloved daughter. Then, comments started coming from the other powerful chiefs, with Egger on the right side of the issue, while the stubborn Camilla was on the left, not ready to be a part of the proposed alliance. She was even strongly supported by the Fishman tribe. Max and the Dogman tribe also agreed with the left-leaning community, while deciding on handing them over good rewards for saving their princess. All of them were fed up with the harsh discrimination they had faced in previous difficult times, and it was the time that he finally got support from the other chief. Hammer told them that their ultimate goal was pretty much the same, and Max stood up from his seat, denying them any kind of help whatsoever. Edgar, being calm and very composed, inquired about the specific type of help they were seeking from them, and as Henrik hesitated for a moment, Mino told them that they wanted to complete the task all at once by personally beheading the Demon King himself. Such a bold declaration was not so common, and it made even the other beastmen go completely silent. Edgar was thoroughly impressed, and he had a weird laugh on his old face. Mito once again repeated the very same sentence of defeating the fearsome Demon King, and humbly asked for their help. And Alto also believed that they should accept the proposal for military help. Edgar instantly agreed to the proposal because he knew that if the whole human kingdom was defeated, then the Federation would surely be the next to fall. The bird tribe leader did not agree because she had no trust in humans, and the same was true with the leader of the Fishman tribe. Neil also denied forming the proposed corporation, even after being the one who had already decided to help the humans. There was a clear majority against the denial of the alliance. So Edgar played a fine, strategic move, asking them to give him some time to think, and decided to hold the final decision for a little while. Alto agreed and called all of them for a special treat at his place, while the other Beastman chiefs were still stiff with their final decision. Araji Kai immediately used his powerful appraisal skill on Neil to gain some info. Since then, they all turned to the feline tribe's chief's grand mansion, where a great feast was prepared and served on the long dining table for their honored guest, in the form of the humans. Alto was continuously thanking them for saving his beloved child. However, the food that was served on the table was not something a human could easily eat. Arajikai was happily enjoying a shrimp, and so was the beautiful mare. Marabi was living on just the drinks, and Alto too finally came to the point to tell them that it looked like the demons were already deep inside the capital city and had quite a handful of sensitive insider information, and it was the only clear information behind the shocking abduction of his only child. The other individuals had a different take on the situation, as they had quite a strict security system in place, and it looked like they were denying the call of the princess. Alto also agreed with the sayings of that particular man, due to their keen and powerful sense of smell, and so the only possible answer at the moment was the presence of a spy among them. Araji Kai then interfered to tell them that there truly was a man who was providing vital information outside of the Federation. And at that moment, the other individuals were not able to take those words, and being in sheer, unbridled anger, they stood up from the dining table. Alto immediately and sternly scolded the man for his outburst, and he humbly apologized for his disrespectful behavior. Only that the man was not having any kind of trace while finding Sina, and it was the main reason he had quite more confidence that there was someone controlling everything from the inside. As the heated discussion continued for a little while, Marabi finally spoke up that there was a traitor hiding among the high ranks of the parliament. In any way, Alto could not take that sensitive topic amongst the discussion, with just a little bit of information as proof, and he commanded Sina to not move out of the mansion for her own safety. In the meantime, such a concern was pretty useful, however, not much important for the pragmatic Mito, so he asked about the current discussion of the proposed alliance, as he did not have the power of changing the stubborn beliefs of the others, and at the moment they had a lower majority vote against the ones who were in denial about the proposed alliance. Still, Alto was ready to give his absolute best in changing the minds of the others, and Hemrick was ready to play a significant part in it. At night, Araji Kai was the one who was not able to sleep inside the comfy bed, so he consulted to help him roam around the city to gather more information. At that moment, he instantly discussed with her about what he saw on the status screen of Neil's, which showed the status of being brainwashed. At that moment, he even revealed the incredible power of his eyes, and was also aware that the beastmen were not able to use magic like the other races. It truly was the doing of a powerful demon, and so Sina also remembered that the way of his talking was quite weird that day, as they did not have quite enough full evidence. They could not discuss the sensitive matter directly with the chief. However, Sina believed that his father would definitely, because he was the one who had saved his own daughter's life. Out of the sudden, Alto entered the tense conversation, telling them that not only his sense of smell, but also his hearing sense was quite a lot louder for them. He was ready to act as per the sayings of the mysterious Araji Kai, because he too felt that the boy was acting very weirdly. In today's important meeting region, the region was able to gain the crucial support of the leader in the alliance, and so Araji Kai had planned on gathering the necessary information about the canine tribe